Chapter 1184. This monkey can hear my thoughts. Chu Feng was shocked. This guy can read other people's minds? Is that still hearing? Why does it sound like my mind-reading ability? He became cautious. This monkey is too powerful, and it's hard to guard against him. But for what he said, it seems like he can only hear what I'm thinking when I'm emotional. Chu Feng looked at the monkey and muttered in his heart, "Monkey, I smashed your head with a big stick just now. What do you want?" This was a provocation, and of course, a test to find out how strong the six-eared macaque's divine ability was. He believed that if the other party heard it, no matter how shrewd he was, there would be a ripple in the depths of his eyes. At this moment, Chu Feng secretly activated his golden eyes, fiery eyes, and stared at Mi Tian's eyes to see if there was any reaction. Fortunately, Mi Tian was still calm and maintained his original state. This meant that when Chu Feng's mind was calm, the other party could not hear his thoughts. Next, Chu Feng probed again, making his emotions more intense. He muttered in his heart, "Your mouth is full of hair, and it's rare to see you so ugly. Just looking at you makes me want to beat you up again. How can your sister be an outstanding beauty? She must be tall and round, with golden hair half a foot long. When she walks, monkey hair falls all over the ground behind her. When she grins, her bloody mouth can swallow half a mammoth. When she rests, her snoring is comparable to thunder." Chu Feng kept muttering in his heart, "This monkey wants to introduce such a sister to me. Is he trying to rope me in or take revenge on me? It must be a female six-eared macaque who is stronger than a bull. They say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You damn monkey, don't tell me you have a sister? Complex? Damn it." Chu Feng added in his heart. Sure enough, he saw Mi Tian's eyes turn green. He bared his teeth, and with a bang, he pulled out a green metal stick and smashed it down at him. Dang! Chu Feng quickly picked up the mace again and met it head-on. With a clang, they collided like two meteors colliding. The energy from the explosion was too terrifying. The entire cave dwelling trembled and flashed with various symbols, but it finally stabilized. "Chowda, how do you want to die?" Mi Tian stared at him, his 6 ears trembling. The monkey said viciously, "It's fine that you're cursing me in your heart, but you even dare to profane my younger sister? She's devastatingly beautiful and is a famous beauty of this generation. If you dare to spout nonsense, I'll break your legs and drag you to her so that she can beat you to death with a club. And, sister, complex my ass, you dare slander me? I'll beat you to death," he added. Chu Feng hurriedly dodged. He really didn't want to get into a fight with him again. He had already fought once, so there was no need to continue. He called out, "Stop, let's talk this out. I'm not targeting you and your sister. I just wanted to test your so-called sense of hearing to see if you could hear my thoughts. Could it be that you've mastered the mind's connection?" The monkey's anger couldn't be quelled. He still wanted to have a fierce battle with him. Chu Feng hurriedly said, "Let's focus on the bigger picture. We have to release the secondary saint and get on that name list to share the Dao fusion herb. What's a small matter like this? I definitely didn't have any ill intentions just now. I was just testing your sense of hearing. Now you're convinced. It's really unparalleled." Mi Tian spat out a breath of resentment and resisted the urge to beat him up. This damn bastard was actually cursing his thunder god mouth in his heart. Hateful. However, he managed to quell his anger. It was because Chu Feng swore a blood oath to prove that he was only testing his hearing just now, and that he wasn't disrespectful or contemptuous towards their clan, and that he didn't have any ill intentions. "At least you know what's good for you." The monkey spoke up, finally calming down gradually. Then, Chu Feng saw a portrait on a wall in a certain palace in the Great Tent. There was a wall shrouded in rolling mist. It was a young girl who was innocent and romantic, beautiful and pure. Her big eyes were sparkling and especially spirited. She had a celestial air about her. She was truly as beautiful as the clouds and seemed somewhat unreal. "Mi Tian, who's this? Which girl do you have a crush on? She's indeed beautiful and rare, her beauty shocking the world." Chu Feng commented with a smile. In fact, he had some guesses in his heart, but he wasn't sure. He was testing the monkey like this. "This is my younger sister. Touch her chest. Does it hurt?" The monkey poked Chu Feng's chest and bared his teeth at the same time, glaring at him. Chu Feng immediately cried out, "Damn, why are you two siblings so different? The contrast is so great. She's so beautiful. Why you look so sad?" He was really shocked. The monkey's face immediately darkened. He wanted to smash his head with a big stick again. This damn bastard. Those within their names were indeed not good people. "Shut up," the monkey shouted. Soon, Chu Feng further understood that this was a twin sister born on the same day as the monkey. They had the same father and mother. However, one was in human form, while the other was in the true form of a six-eared macaque. Don't twins look the same? You're covered in hair, while she's as white as jade. I don't want to criticize you, but monkey, what sins did you commit in your past life? Chu Feng's mouth was indeed asking for it. The monkey was so angry that he immediately started fighting with him without saying anything else. For a moment, the cave was almost torn apart by them. In the end, they finally reconciled. To be more precise, they still had to cooperate in the future. At the same time, Chu Feng learned that the six-eared macaque bloodline had evolved for such a long time that some clansmen were already identical to humans, while others were in the form of their ancestors. However, their two forms were extremely powerful, and they were equally matched. You're saying that the six-eared macaque in human form also has the various talents of your clan? Chu Feng immediately felt guilty. If the monkey's twin sister was nearby, she would definitely hear everything he said and come to settle the score with him. He already found it difficult to fight one six-eared macaque. If another one came, it would be torture. The monkey seemed to see through his thoughts. He curled his lips in disdain and said, "Don't worry, she's not here right now. She's gone to invite other experts." At the same time, he said, "What's so special about a human form? It's not like I can't transform. I'm just too lazy to do so." "Brother-in-law, wasn't a misunderstanding just now? Besides, I have no ill intentions. Come, let's drink." Chu Feng put his arm around the monkey's shoulder and looked very friendly. The monkey was furious and said, "Stand aside. Who's your brother-in-law? You really have no morals at all. Let me tell you, I was only trying to rope you in. I never really wanted my sister to marry you. You should just give up. As for now, that's even more impossible. Even if my sister finds you pleasing to the eye and agrees, I won't agree." Chu Feng said, "Let's drink. Let's not talk about this first. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. There will never be a chance in the future." Mi Tian gritted his teeth. "All right, then let's talk about the Dao fusing grass. Who do we have? How do we ambush those 2 or 3 quasi-sages? And how do we get rid of them?" Chu Feng asked. "Chow, if it weren't for your terrifying strength, I would really want to kick you away and not let you participate in this." The monkey was a little reluctant. "Call me Chowda. Don't just call me by my surname." Chu Feng reminded him. "Chow, it's not that I want to criticize you, but your lousy name is too inauspicious and unlucky. I'll only call you by your surname and not by your lousy name." Chu Feng's face immediately darkened. Just calling him by his surname and pronouncing it like that. What the hell? Every time he called him by his surname, it felt like he was being scolded. "I'm warning you. You have to add the word da to my name," Chu Feng said woodenly. "Generally speaking, what's missing in a name is added, so you'll just call it that. Aren't you lacking in morals?" Mi Tian mocked him. "Shut up. Chow, it's not that I want to criticize you, but your parents really saw through you, so they gave you this name." Now, it was Chu Feng's turn to beat him up. This damned thunder god mouth really wanted to beat him up again. Chu Feng's face was as gloomy as still water. This damn monkey only called him by his surname and not by his name. Chu Feng was at a loss for a while. He was really unlucky to have named himself Chowda. Changing his surname would be better than this. In the end, the two of them had a private discussion and came to an agreement. "Luer, I heard that your weapon was stolen and your head was smashed open by your own mace." At this moment, a voice came from outside the tent, and 2 people walked in directly. One of them had golden hair and a hawk-like gaze. He had a very imposing aura, sharp and frightening. Chu Feng could tell at a glance that this was a Peng in human form, and his aura was somewhat similar to that of the Peng Emperor. The other person had thick black hair and deep black eyes. This youth was very steady, and he stood there, exuding a Tao charm. Mi Tian refused to admit that he had been beaten up. He said, "What nonsense are you talking about? How can I be beaten up? Let me tell you, I got to know an expert today, so our plan will work." Then, he introduced himself here. Peng Wanli, the strongest golden body of the Peng race. Xiao Yao, a core disciple of the Tao race. Monkey didn't say much and simply pointed out his identity, not revealing too much. When it was Chu Feng's turn, he was also very concise. "Chao, a savage who just walked out of the forest." Chu Feng's face darkened, and he added, "My name is Chao Da." "Ignore him, just call him Chao," Monkey said righteously. "Chao, hello." Peng Wanli's face was full of smiles, and he withdrew his sharp aura. Chu Feng was annoyed, but at the same time, he was also a little surprised. He said, "I remember that the Peng race is supporting the overlord of the southern Zhan province, right?" He clearly remembered that at the sky-piercing waterfall, the Hung race, the Peng race, the quasi-mortal race, and the others had to advance and retreat together with the overlord of the southern Zhan province. What's wrong with that? Even chickens know to lay their eggs in different baskets, let alone a Peng, Monkey said lazily. With a bang, Peng Wanli's palm slashed over, almost hitting his head. Monkey stomped his feet and said, "Old Peng, if you have the guts, fight with this savage. Looks like you're at a disadvantage. This king won't fall for it." Peng Wanli shook his head with a smile, and his golden hair fluttered in the wind. "All right, stop fighting among yourselves. We have to conserve our strength," Tao Race's core disciple Xiao Yao said. His words were very effective, and this was the truth. The six-eared macaque nodded and said, "Wait for my younger sister to return. If she roped in that expert, our manpower will be enough, and we can make our move." In reality, Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao had also gone to invite people, wanting to contact a top-notch expert of the Golden Body domain. However, they returned without success. Now, there was an additional chowda. If Monkey's younger sister succeeded, then they could deal a fatal blow and ambush the quasi-sage. These people were very conceited, and they were also extremely daring. Not long after, they dispersed and returned to their respective residences to rest patiently. Before leaving, Chu Feng took a small cave residence from Monkey and placed it in his own tent. Immediately, the fragrance of flowers and the chirping of birds filled the air. There were pavilions, terraces, and pavilions, and the gurgling of flowing water. He lived very comfortably. However, there were people in this camp who had their eyes on him. An old man chuckled and said, "Six-eared macaque, Peng race, and Tao race. If these races join forces, they might really succeed in their plan and let these little fellows enter that list." Of course, he did not dare to let his voice spread out for fear of being heard by the six-eared macaque. "Oh, Han Yu, call your elder brother over. In a while, use some methods to force this chowdo away. Don't give him a chance. If worst comes to worst, have your elder brother cripple him, as long as he isn't killed. After forcing him to leave, you can replace him and join the small group of the six-eared macaque, Peng race, and Tao race. Join them to seek a great fortune. As for that chowda, don't even think about it. Just obediently give up your position." The old man sneered and secretly sent a message to his grandson. The young man smiled and nodded. At the same time, Mi Tian was grimacing in his cave residence. The injuries on his body were not light, and he was secretly cursing Chowda. At this time, an old God King level servant came over silently and said, "Young master, I heard you were injured. Do you want this old servant to teach that savage a lesson?" Mi Tian glared at him and said, "You must be tired of living, daring to use such underhanded methods in this camp. Not to mention whether he has some other background. Just the fact that he has that heaven-connecting mirror monitoring everything in the camp is enough to make it impossible for him to escape. Whoever dares to disobey the rules will die a miserable death." "All right." The old man stepped back in embarrassment. Mi Tian said, "It's fine. I only suffered a small loss this time. When I enter that list, I will definitely advance by leaps and bounds with the help of the Tao fusion grass. At the same time, I will also have a peerless opportunity to be reborn." When my strength reaches a certain level, the old ancestor will come forward for me and send me into the supreme 8 trigrams furnace's forbidden area to temper my true self. When I come out again, my strength will be unparalleled, and I will have refined an invincible diamond body. Chapter 1185. Hong Yu walked out and headed to a camp where the second sage was to look for his elder brother. The Hong brothers were very strong. Whether it was the second sage level Hong Sheng or the golden body domain level Hong Yu, they were all top experts in their respective realms and were only a step away from the peak. In the second sage camp, some creatures opened their eyes, but when they saw the 2 brothers, they closed them again and ignored them. This was because they all knew that the Hong family was not to be trifled with. When Hong Sheng and Hong Yu walked out and arrived at their grandfather's tent, they immediately felt as if they were facing a prehistoric ferocious beast. Their grandfather sat cross-legged there, his entire body enveloped by a ball of blood energy, majestic and terrifying, like an eternal divine furnace, blazing and terrifying. This was the result before the blood mist dissipated. If the blood chi really surged over, the 2 brothers would be turned into meat paste. Hong Haiyun was one of the people in charge of this golden body camp. He was at the quasi-divine king level and was enough to manage the unruly golden body realm youths of the various clans. Grandfather, are you saying that the youths of the 6-eared macaque, Peng clan, and Dao clan are planning to ambush the second sage and get on that list? Hong Sheng was very surprised. He had come from the golden body domain, so he knew how difficult it was to deal with the second sage. It was almost impossible. Were those brats tired of living? Hong Haiyun nodded. He had long gray hair and the cold expression. He said, "Yes, they're extremely daring. So I asked you to help your younger brother make a move against Xiaoda. Whether it's to push him away or cripple him, it's fine. Even if you kill him, it's fine. Let your younger brother replace him and join that small group." Hong Sheng shook his head and said, "But even if my younger brother can join, he is destined to fail. He will definitely be heavily injured. It's impossible for them to defeat the second sage. Do you think that the 6-eared macaque, Dao clan, and Peng clan aren't strong enough? These 3 clans are famous in the Yang realm, and their power is too great. If they really join forces and plead for mercy for the younger generation, I reckon that there is a chance of success." Hong Yunhai made this guess. He believed that the ambush by Mi Tian, Peng Wanli, and the others was just a prelude. The key was still to rely on the powerhouses of the clan to stand out and fight for them. Even if they failed to ambush a secondary saint, they might still be called bloody brave and be manipulated by some old fellows, giving them a chance to get on that list. The result of the ambush was not important. The process was enough. The most important thing was the family behind them. This was Hong Yunhai's judgment. The key isn't how strong they are, but how strong the families behind them are. Hong Yunhai emphasized his gaze faint. To his grandson, Hong Yu, this was a rare opportunity. He could replace Chowda and occupy this spot. Needless to say, Hong Yunhai was slightly ruthless and sinister. For the sake of this opportunity, he'd already started planning to cripple or even cripple Chowda and occupy his position. Hong Sheng frowned and asked, "Even if I find a reliable reason to cripple Chowda, will my brother be able to join them?" Hong Yunhai said, "Your brother is only slightly weaker than them. Without Chowda as an option, I believe that Hong Yu's chance will come." "Grandfather, are you so sure that everything will go smoothly?" Hong Sheng asked. Beside him, Hong Yu was tall and slender. His black hair was loose, and his eyes were bright and full of spirit. He looked very heroic, but he did not speak. He was seriously listening to the conversation between his elder brother and grandfather. This path that his grandfather had arranged for him absolutely could not be missed. If he was lucky enough to share the Tao fusing grass, his achievements in this life would be raised by a large margin. Everyone knew that the transcendent grass that could fuse with the heavens and earth had the talent of a god king. When the time came, he might even have the potential of an Empyrean. This was a wondrous grass that could determine the ultimate achievements and height of an evolver. Therefore, all the top families were shameless. For the sake of their descendants, they did not hesitate to quarrel fiercely and even shed all pretense of cordiality. Big brother, you must help me kick that Chowdo away or cripple him. I don't want to miss this opportunity. This is a guarantee for me to stand in a higher realm in the future. My ultimate achievements will be raised by a large level. Because of this, Hong Yu finally spoke. His eyes were blazing and filled with a kind of ruthlessness. Hong Yunhai looked at Hong Sheng and said, "No one can guarantee that everything will go smoothly, but wouldn't it be too regretful not to try? After all, the opportunity is right in front of us. I really didn't expect Mi Tian, Peng Wanli, and those other great families' young masters to be so bold." When he accidentally discovered this, he was deeply shocked and secretly sighed that the disciples of these great families were too bold. Daring to ambush a second saint was very courageous. As one of the people in charge of this Golden Body camp, he was very strong and had been secretly observing these few troublemakers, so he discovered some clues and finally deduced what they were going to do. Therefore, he decisively wanted to push his grandson, Hong Yu, into this small group. Unfortunately, after several arranged encounters, Hong Yu had not been able to be recruited by Mi Tian and the others, only causing them to hesitate slightly. Now that a better choice like Chao Da had appeared, Hong Yu felt it was even more difficult to join. And there are many opportunities to kill him. After all, he's just a newcomer with no battle achievements, so the higher-ups won't have any impression of him, Hong Yunhai said with a faint smile. He motioned for his two grandsons to sit down and then told them that they could find a good opportunity to kill Chao Da on the battlefield. The battlefield is ever-changing, and no one knows what will happen. For example, a vicious beast in the Saint realm from the opposing camp could accidentally break into the Golden Body battlefield and slaughter Chao Da. Of course, it's best to be peaceful and create an accident so that he accidentally dies or becomes crippled. This old man had gray hair and a sinister look in his eyes. He was teaching his grandsons in such a vicious manner, and if outsiders learned that this normally kind old man was actually so sinister, they would definitely be shocked. Hong Yunhai told his two grandsons that the war would soon start again. At that time, he would let Chao Da's group advance from the side, adjacent to the Second Saint Realm battlefield. "I've prepared an opportunity for you," Hong Yunhai said lightly, and in the conversation, Chu Feng stayed in the camp for 5 or 6 days, drinking with Mi Tian, Xiao Yao, and Peng Wanli from time to time, living a carefree life. Now, many people in this Golden Body camp knew that another troublemaker had arrived, a devil incarnate who could stand shoulder to shoulder with 6-eared macaque and could not be provoked. What? He's going to fight? On this day, Chu Feng was surprised. When he learned about the situation from Mi Tian, he showed a strange look. He was finally going to the battlefield. Damn it, Monkey was furious. He had been conserving his strength, waiting for his little sister to bring someone back, so he could ambush the Second Saint Realm. But now he was in a fight, so he could only come back to cause trouble. Be careful, don't get injured on the battlefield. If you encounter a fierce opponent, avoid them if you can, or it will ruin the plan. Peng Wanli reminded. He knew that once 6-eared macaque entered the battlefield, his innate demon god blood would heat up and he would easily go crazy, often chasing after his enemies without any regard for the consequences. "Don't worry, I know what's important." Mi Tian scratched his head and replied with some embarrassment. Then, Peng Wanli, Xiao Yao, and Mi Tian began to explain to Chu Feng what kind of fierce opponents he would encounter on the battlefield and how it would be best to avoid them. The foreign desolate race, each of these creatures is more powerful than the last. They're too difficult to kill, and each one is more ruthless than the last. For example, we might encounter the foreign desolate race's human king family, so it's best to avoid them. After all, we can't afford to be injured this time, so there's no need to fight them to the death. However, when Chu Feng heard this, his heart burned with passion and his eyes became even more spirited. If he encountered the Mo family, he would definitely kill them all. There's no need to say anything about the Buddhist race. The top 5 families, if you encounter the young Baldy, you must avoid him. Don't be fooled by his bright and peaceful smile. Those two Buddhist children are more ruthless than anyone else. There's also that white peacock. Try to avoid it as much as possible. It's very troublesome. You should know that their family produced a white peacock in the past. It was the first god king, and after becoming an empyrean, it rushed into the top 10 in the shortest time possible. It's really terrifying. Who would have thought that another little peacock would mutate and become albino? Monkey said angrily. Peng Wanli said with a smile, "You're so wicked." That's a mutation. His feathers are snow white, surpassing his original bloodline, and his strength has soared. Right, there's a girl from the white tiger race. It's best to avoid her when you see her. Although she looks stunningly beautiful and devastatingly beautiful, she's really a tigress. She's freakishly powerful. In addition, that Li family brat is very ruthless. If you can avoid him, don't fight him to the death. His strength is terrifying. The Li family they were talking about was naturally one of the top 5 families, a top-notch orthodoxy that was on par with the Ji family and the Hung family. Chu Feng couldn't help but think of Li Jiuxiao, who was ranked in the top 10 in the Divine King domain. When he was in the Desolate Border, he had once drenched Li Jiuxiao with a rain for an entire season. He didn't know if he would encounter him on the battlefield. At the same time, he also thought of that young girl from the Ji family, Ji Kaixian. She was also one of the top 10 divine kings and had been pursued by Li Jiuxiao for many years. Right, the 9-tailed celestial fox races, people have to be extra careful. If you're not careful, you'll be tricked and lose yourself. Monkey reminded solemnly. The other two also nodded solemnly. They had almost suffered a big loss back then. They emphasized that the 9-tailed celestial fox race had produced an incredible master. They even suspected that this peerless beauty might have mutated and grown a 10th tail. A woman? Chu Feng was surprised. She was actually able to make the 3 of them feel so apprehensive. Peng Wanli said, "And a snow-white heavenly fox might really have grown 10 tails. She can charm the world and turn all living beings upside down." At that time, Mi Tian was bewitched and almost switched sides on the battlefield. If he hadn't been seriously injured and fainted, he might have turned around and fought with us. Mi Tian flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "You're still talking about me? Didn't you also fall for her tricks?" "Big brother, don't laugh at second brother. It's all the same," Xiao Yao said. "There's no need to worry too much. That heavenly fox is indeed powerful, but won't show itself easily. As long as we're careful, we won't provoke a fatal disaster." Chu Feng was deeply surprised. Was a 9-tailed celestial fox so terrifying? At the same time, he was lost in thought because he thought of an old acquaintance, Heavenly Venerable Stone Fox. He had come to Earth from the foreign domain and wondered how that stone fox was doing. The lame stone fox had once told Chu Feng to take care of his clansmen when he met them in the future. At the same time, the most important thing was that the lame stone fox, Heavenly Venerable, had told Chu Feng about some hidden treasures that even his master had been searching for. Heavenly Venerable Stone Fox was in a miserable state. His master couldn't tolerate him and cursed him, petrifying him before exiling him to the foreign domain and leaving him to die. Although my memory is hazy, I still know where those hidden treasures are. Chu Feng felt that when he had a chance, he would definitely dig them out. However, he wasn't in a hurry. After all, these treasures were buried by Heavenly Venerable Stone Fox, so they would definitely be very dangerous. Even if he knew the way and how to enter those areas, he still needed to be cautious. It would be best if he was strong enough. Hey, what are you thinking about? Don't tell me you're thinking of seducing that 10-tailed Heavenly Fox girl? I advise you to give up on that idea. Your cultivation isn't high enough, and I guarantee that you'll end up losing your life. Chu Feng came back to his senses and discovered that the monkey was looking at him from the corner of his eyes. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Chu Feng glared at him. "We're just reminding you how to protect your life on the battlefield. Don't recklessly rush in and kill every opponent you meet. If you do, you won't be too far from death. For example, the exotic Wastelands Bodhi Buddha race and Undying Eternal race. These races are all legendary creatures. The original Buddha race and eternal race were terrifying to the extreme. Just thinking about the creatures that transcended from them is enough to scare people to death. Don't worry. The Bodhi Buddhist race and the eternal undying race should have been extinct in prehistoric times. It's impossible for their clansmen to reappear. Otherwise, I would have run away as soon as I saw them. That way, I wouldn't have to risk my life and not even be able to harm a single finger of my opponent. Chu Feng's gains were great. He now knew which races were vicious on the battlefield and which he needed to avoid. Oh, right, there won't be people shooting arrows at us from behind, right? Asked Chu Feng. He was still a bit worried. Probably not. After all, there are sky-penetrating mirrors monitoring the battlefield. If they really dare to do that, they'll be severely punished, said Peng Wanli. He even glanced at the monkey. What are you saying? The six-eared macaque glared. When Chu Feng heard that, he immediately felt that it wasn't safe. He wanted all kinds of life-saving items from them, making them speechless. This brat was too afraid of death. Didn't they already say that such a thing wouldn't happen? You all said that under normal circumstances, it won't happen. What if someone's blind? All right, give me a great killing weapon. At that time, if anyone provokes me, don't blame me for turning around and killing them, said Chu Feng. The six-eared macaque, the Peng race, and the Dao race were all famous races in the Yang realm. Chu Feng believed that they definitely had forbidden weapons on them. It wouldn't be a loss to take this chance to get one. Woo! In the distance, a low bugle horn sounded. It was like a heavenly dragon letting out a muffled roar, summoning them to the battlefield. Chao, what are you thinking about? Asked Mi Tian. They discovered that Chao was still in the mood to be lost in thought, even at this critical juncture. They didn't know what he was thinking about. I'm thinking, what if I accidentally kill someone from the human Wang race? Replied Chu Feng. Don't kill them. It's very troublesome. Capture them and make them pay the ransom. I guarantee that we'll make a killing, said Xiao Yao. Beat the men to death, capture the women, and keep them by my side as female slaves. Is there anything better than this to reflect my identity? Monkey said, scratching his ears and cheeks. Chapter 1186. As soon as the horn was blown, all the golden arhats in the camp gathered together to prepare for battle. At this moment, Mi Tian was wearing golden chainmail, holding a green spear in his hand, and wearing cloud-soaring boots. He looked truly awe-inspiring. Behind him, there were a few followers who were also at the Golden Arhat realm. There was even someone who specially carried a large flag for him. A golden violent ape was embroidered on the flag. Its aura swallowed the heaven and earth, and it was vivid and lifelike. The most outstanding thing about it was that it had 6 ears. Chu Feng was a little speechless. Was there a need to be so ostentatious? Mi Tian sneered and said, "What do you know? In order to avoid accidental injuries, this is the least we can do. Bring out my chariot as well." Then, a golden chariot was driven over, and the monkey directly jumped onto it. He stood on it in high spirits, looking like he was pointing at the world and looking down on the heroes of the world of the living. It's really necessary. Peng Wanli also said. He was also wearing armor, and there was also someone holding a large flag behind him. A golden winged rock was embroidered on it, emitting a dazzling glow as if it was about to spread its wings and pounce into the sky. It carried a terrifying aura of hostility. It was just a flag, but it actually emitted the aura of a primordial beast. Xiao Yao of the Dao race explained, "Swords have no eyes on the battlefield. If we raise our clan's flag, we'll tell the other side who we are. Unless the two races are opposing each other and are mortal enemies, we'll show mercy even if we're in different camps. Everyone knows what's going on and will avoid fighting to the death." In other words, on the battlefield, as soon as the flags of the 6-eared macaque and the golden-winged rock race were unfurled, the people on the other side would immediately know who had come and would be fearful. Although the various races chose different camps, some powerful races might have great friendship in private. Moreover, even if there was no friendship, no one would dare to easily kill the descendants of top-notch orthodoxies like the 6-eared macaque and the Dao race, especially the monkey bloodline, which only had a few left. If you dared to ignore your 6 emotions on the battlefield and mercilessly kill one, those old monkeys might think of ways to support others to exterminate all the descendants of your race on the battlefield. Chu Feng was tongue-tied, and after a long time he said, "You guys are using unspoken rules." There are unspoken rules everywhere in life. The monkey's entire body was golden. He patted Chu Feng's shoulder with his furry palm and lectured him in a meaningful and heartfelt manner. "What about me?" Chu Feng asked. "What kind of banner should he set up? Are you going to follow us?" Peng Wanli asked. It was safer this way. However, someone came to report that this time, these thorns all had an important mission. As the spear-like leading figures, they had to lead the people of the Golden Body Battalion to break through. The few of them were scattered, and they were all vanguards. As for Chu Feng, he was arranged to stand on the far right, and they were separated from each other. He's just a new recruit. Why is he leading the army? The monkey was dissatisfied. It hadn't been easy for him to find a top-notch expert in the Golden Body domain. What if this was his first time on the battlefield, and he didn't know anything? What if he was killed by the joint forces of others? It is reported that the higher-ups heard that he was very brave and could fight against the 6 Ears clan's highness. They were deeply surprised, so they gave him the opportunity to charge and break through the enemy lines. How troublesome. The monkey frowned. Chao had fought with him, but in the end, he had attracted the attention of the higher-ups. He warned Chu Feng, "Be careful, don't be too rash. Don't just foolishly risk your life. Let me tell you, there are some fierce fellows on the battlefield that even us brothers are afraid of." Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao also nodded. They were very dissatisfied with going out to battle now. They still wanted to preserve their strength and build up their energy to defeat the second saint. "It's fine. When the time comes, we'll fight our way to the right and support Chao," Mi Tian said. After that, he had someone bring over a large scarlet banner. It was very wide, as if it had been soaked in blood. There was a large black word on it, Chao. "Why is your banner full of vivid and lifelike images, but mine only has one word?" Chu Feng was dissatisfied. He always felt that the 3 of them were smiling maliciously. "You aren't famous, so who would recognize you if you drew a barbarian? Why don't we do it this way? After a few battles on the battlefield, your true battle achievements will definitely frighten people. When it's your turn to go on the battlefield again, you'll definitely create a great momentum when you wave your banner. Everyone will cry out in alarm. 'Chao, he's here again.' I guarantee they'll all flee at the sight of him." The other 2 bared their teeth and laughed happily. Chu Feng wanted to beat someone up after hearing this. Every time he went on the battlefield, a group of people would shout, "Chao, he's here again. Run." This kind of scene was indeed quite awe-inspiring, but he felt that it was full of maliciousness. Woo-woo. The bugle horn shook the sky. "All right, stop dilly-dallying. It's time to go on the battlefield," the monkey reminded. Chu Feng's face darkened. In the end, he gritted his teeth. So what if he brought this banner? This was the one. This was Chu Feng's first time going to the Yang Realm's battlefield. He was really in the dark. There were many figures following behind him, and he didn't recognize any of them. He didn't quite understand why a recruit like him was made a vanguard-level figure on the right flank. He was requested to be a sharp knife that nailed into the opponent's camp. Even if his battle prowess was outstanding and was already known by others, wasn't it too bold and risky to let him take the lead without any experience at all? Damned monkey, and that golden-winged rock isn't a good bird either. Where's the promised, life-saving, secret treasure? Not even a feather is left behind. Chu Feng was dissatisfied. "Quiet. Get into formation and set off." Someone shouted. The battlefield was really too big. It was boundless as far as the eye could see. This was really a good place for the 3 parties to contend for hegemony. Even Chu Feng felt a little dizzy. In front of him, there were densely packed figures that filled the vast battlefield. All of them were evolvers at the Golden Arhut realm. In that sea of people, there were large banners shining one after another. There were all kinds of patterns embroidered on them, such as the swan and eye, the green wand, the 9-headed bird, the Tao Tai, the humanoid monarch flag, and the clan insignia of the prehistoric clans. The most terrifying thing was the blood chi. It surged into the sky as if it wanted to tear the sky apart. There were already millions of evolvers of the Golden Arhut realm on such a large battlefield. It was really a little shocking. That murderous intent and blood chi were world-shaking, making people deeply feel the insignificance of a single person's strength. Which party are we going to fight with today? Chu Feng asked the people beside him. The faces of the group of people in front and behind him turned green. This vanguard today was too unreliable. They had already arrived at the battlefield, yet they still didn't know which party they were going to fight with. Would they have a good ending following such a person? They had long heard that this was a rookie. From the looks of it now, it was really unfortunate that they had encountered such a leader. They reckoned that they would soon be out of luck. Today, we're going to have a great battle with the hegemon of the He state in the west, someone informed him in a low voice. Chu Feng nodded when he heard this. He was just about to ask again when a rumble rang out from the right side. The world seemed to have exploded, and blood chi surged into the sky. A terrifying battle had erupted. Someone had made a move. At this moment, Chu Feng's facial muscles twitched. That battlefield belonged to the secondary saints and was quite a distance away from them. However, it could also be considered to be adjacent to the battlefield zone of the Golden Arhats. There were at least millions of people in that area. What if a secondary saint collapses and escapes here? Chu Feng asked the people behind him. Immediately, this group of people was in despair. This person didn't know anything, so how could he be the vanguard? He would most likely be leading them to their deaths in a while. Generally speaking, that kind of thing won't happen, someone informed him. Chu Feng still wanted to ask in detail, but a great battle in the Golden Arhut realm had also erupted in front of this area. Someone on the opposite side had made the first move, and right in front of Chu Feng, there were even many people who had drawn their bows and nocked arrows and were shooting in their direction. Where are the archers on our side? Where are the godly shooters? Shoot them! Chu Feng shouted. Behind him, this group of people was about to break down. This person was really lacking in all kinds of experience in facing enemies. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless arrows flew up like raindrops, pouring toward Chu Feng and the others. Of course, there were also people on their side who had drawn their bows and shot arrows in return. Shield, block them. Attack! Chu Feng shouted. At this juncture, the tribulations of life and death could allow a person to grow and learn rapidly. Chu Feng saw how the others were giving instructions not far away, and he immediately followed suit. After all, the battlefield was too big, and there were many vanguards. In addition, he also directly learned from the enemies on the opposite side. Chapter 1187. If Grandpa Chow doesn't show his might, you'll think I'm a pushover. Do you think I'm a sick cat? Kill! Chu Feng picked up a giant shield and was the first to rush out. At the same time, his right hand glowed as he hurled out one black spear after another. All of them erupted with energy and resembled black suns as they descended before exploding. This kind of destructive power was too astonishing. The densely packed figures of the opposing army were bombarded with black spear after black spear. A large number of people screamed in agony because the spear had been injected with energy and exploded each time it fell, leaving behind a bloody crater. A spear fell, and more than 10 people in the vicinity would suffer. In the end, Chu Feng threw out dozens of spears in one go and suppressed the group of archers who were aiming at him. The group of people behind him were dizzy. This person was too ferocious, suppressing the opposing side with his own strength. At the same time, they were a little alarmed. Was this vanguard too responsible or too irresponsible? He didn't care about them at all and charged over alone, leaving them far behind. Let's kill him too, someone shouted. The Chow flag fluttered in the wind. The blood-colored flag was somewhat terrifying as it fluttered in the wind. There were simply too many enemies on the battlefield. There was no end to them. After Chu Feng had killed his way over, he threw away his shield and spear. He took out the wolf fawn club he had snatched from the monkey and swung it in a circle. In just a split second, blood splattered in all directions. All kinds of vicious birds, ferocious beasts, and humanoid creatures were sent flying like scarecrows. They were sent flying and crippled by him. Some even exploded in midair. Where did this savage come from? He's too ferocious and scared me to death. Run. Many evolvers on the opposing side collapsed. They had never seen such a ferocious vanguard before. He didn't care about his life at all and charged over alone. The most important thing was that they had actually failed to surround and kill him. Instead, they were directly smashed to death by his wolf fawn club. Savage, you're courting death. Right at this moment, a bird cry sounded. It was incomparably ear-piercing, as if two metal plates were rubbing against each other. A three-headed strange bird spread its wings and pounced over murderously. It had the tail of a snake, and its three bird heads seemed to belong to the lawn race. Without a doubt, it was extremely powerful. It was a vanguard of E-Province's camp. It carried terrifying energy fluctuations that shook the void. It opened its mouth and spat out concentrated lightning to kill Chu Feng. Scram! Chu Feng let out a loud roar. He held the wolf fawn club in his right hand and formed a fist seal with his left. It was the authentic lightning fist that lady she had taught him back in the serene world. This was a very famous battle technique in the Yang realm, and many powerful clans had mastered it. Crack! In midair, lightning flashed and thunder roared. This time, Chu Feng's figure was not hindered in the slightest by the collision of thunder and lightning. He continued to rush forward, but the body of the strange bird swayed and was a little unstable, almost falling from the sky. Rumble! Just at this moment, Chu Feng leaped into the air, wielding the wolf fawn cudgel in his hand. Kill! The strange bird roared angrily. It couldn't dodge, so it directly met the attack head-on. In the end, with a rumble, the feathers in the sky withered, and the powerful strange bird was sent flying with blood all over its body. Chu Feng didn't care and directly chased after it. Boom! 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 This area seemed to be struck by lightning. The wolf fawn club in Chu Feng's hand danced nonstop, sending all those in his way flying, and many of them turned into a mist of blood. He was chasing after the strange bird, and whoever dared to block his path would be cleaned up by him. The strange bird couldn't fly away and faced Chu Feng's attacks in succession. In the end, it couldn't bear it anymore and disintegrated in midair with a roar. It was blown up by Chu Feng's wolf fawn club. Blood splattered all over the sky, shocking the battlefield. Brothers, kill for me! Chu Feng spread his arms and shouted toward the back. In the end, he turned around. Damn, where are they? They haven't caught up yet. He was the only one who charged into the enemy group. Then, he didn't care anymore and swung his wolf fawn club to clear the area. He only stopped when he had swept away the enemies and received his own people. This area was dyed red with blood, and the corpses of his enemies were everywhere. The group of people who followed him were terrified. At the same time, they were incomparably shocked. This person was too ferocious. He had almost swept this area alone. Kill! Chu Feng swung his wolf fawn club and ran forward again. He personally charged forward. This time, the group of people behind him had experience. They surrounded the flag and hurriedly chased after him. The Sure family? It's you guys. Chu Feng saw the Sure family's flag fluttering in the wind not far away. There was also a war chariot with a young expert standing on it. Rumble! Those who dared to stand in front of Chu Feng, be it weapons or beasts, were all sent flying by him. He was like a human-shaped killing machine, crushing everything in his way. He killed his way to the Sure family. He didn't like this family at all. Sure Huang had caused trouble for him time and time again. The reason why Chu Feng became enemies with the Mo family was also because of Sure Huang's provocation. Kid from a Sure family, give me your dog head. Chu Feng roared, shaking the entire area. Immediately, two young people charged over. They were from a Sure family. However, they had not exchanged many blows before one of them was smashed to death by Chu Feng with a bang. As a result, the other was terrified and wanted to escape, but he was also smashed in the head by the wolf fawn club. On the war chariot, the pupils of Ashur family's core disciples constricted. They were infuriated. They personally knocked arrows and shot at Chu Feng. Bang, bang, bang. Chu Feng swung the wolf fawn club continuously. Such a heavy weapon in his hands was like a thin wooden sword. It was too easy for him, and all the arrows fell to the ground. Moreover, he leaped into the air and directly attacked the young expert from the Sure clan. Rumble. The area exploded with blinding light. The Sure family's young expert met the enemy head-on, but his hand was split open. Blood gushed out, and his weapon shook violently. His arm was almost broken. Chu Feng didn't care and continued to attack fiercely. In the end, after only 10 exchanges, the Sure family's young expert couldn't take it anymore. He drove the war chariot and fled. The war chariot left the ground and emitted blinding light. Chow, just you wait. The Sure family's young expert turned around and shouted angrily. He was going to invite people to find the top figures in the clan to kill this person. How dare you scold me? Chu Feng was furious. Seeing the Sure family's young expert flying the war chariot, Chu Feng couldn't take it anymore. He swung the Wolf Fong club and threw it. Clang! The heavy weapon hit the war chariot in midair and smashed it down. Chow, do you know the unspoken rules of the battlefield? I'm raising a flag, and I'm from the prehistoric family, the Sure family. The young expert was shocked and frightened. He fell to the ground and rolled away. He hurriedly got up and shouted in exasperation. The war chariot fell to the ground, and many evolvers' bones and tendons were broken. Blood splattered everywhere. You're courting death. You dare scold me? I'll kill you. Chu Feng took large strides and rushed over. Follow the vanguard, Chow. Kill. Chow, you're invincible. Chapter 1188. F***CK kill. F***CK, you're invincible. This region was filled with shouts, uniform and uniform. It was as if thunder rumbled through this region. Chu Feng's face was dark. He strode forward in large strides, chasing after the Sure family's young expert. Stop right there, you little bastard, he shouted angrily. The Sure family expert was both shocked and furious. This person didn't follow the rules and wanted to kill him even after seeing the Sure family's flag. Moreover, that Chow brat was still panting with rage. It was preposterous. It was one thing for Sure Hong to be angry, but what right did that fellow have? You don't follow the rules. Is there need to fight to the death on a three-way battlefield? We're all people with powerful backgrounds. Do you still want to go against our family? Sure Hong shouted angrily as he ran. However, the youth behind him ran faster and faster. He was incomparably courageous and was rapidly closing the distance between them. F***CK, how about we stop? He shouted again. F***CK your grandpa. You're cursing me while running and you still want to stop? So what if your surname is Sure? Don't think I won't dare to hit you just because you're stinky and rotten. Chu Feng shouted. His hands glowed and all obstructions along the way were sent flying as if they were dry weeds. Regardless of whether they were huge beasts or flying demonic birds, whether they were spewing lightning or brandishing weapons, he smashed them all away with his fists. At this moment, he was using the ultimate punch derived from the ultimate scripture he had obtained from the ancient dream path. His fists erupted with golden light, but were also surrounded by a faint bloody mist. At this moment, Chu Feng's heart was shaken. That was because after using this kind of fist seal to kill an enemy camp evolver at the Golden Arhut level, the blood seemed to be drawn by him. Some of the runes contained within were absorbed by him and condensed into the bloody light outside his body, helping him understand the various wonders of the Golden Arhuts. He had come at the right time. The old man's guess had come true. This ultimate scripture required several of the strongest breathing techniques to break through. It could also trigger the baptism of the blood of 10,000 spirits on the battlefield and undergo a transformation. Now, Chu Feng had comprehended an even more complex and powerful fist seal after sensing the various runes flying over. Kill. For a moment, he became even more resplendent and his aura strengthened. No one could resist him wherever he passed. Puffed. A twin-headed crocodrogon was killed by him with his bare hands, its blood splattering everywhere. Crack! A Shin tortoise blocked his path, but in the end, it was punched through by his fist. The Shin tortoise cried out miserably. It had wanted to do the Sure family a favor by blocking the punch a little, but it didn't expect that even its powerful defense wouldn't be able to block a single punch from the Chow youth. In the distance, Sure Hong was shocked, angry, and terrified at the same time. Sure family brat, where do you think you're going? Chu Feng shouted. As he passed by the destroyed chariot, Chu Feng picked up his mace. At the same time, he picked up the entire heavy chariot and swung it forward. Rumble. Smoke and dust overflowed into the heavens. The Sure family youngster's face was pale. He was so close to being smashed into a bloody paste. And at this time, Chu Feng finally caught up. Finally, he was getting closer and closer. He threw out his mace again. Ah! The Sure family youngster cried out miserably. This time, he couldn't dodge. One of his legs was broken, and he was smashed by the mace. He immediately fell onto the battlefield. There were people around him who wanted to help and escape with him, but someone reminded them that if they didn't leave quickly, the fiend would arrive. Whoever took Sure Hong with them would be courting death. Surnamed Sure, are you going to run again? Chow, do you know the rules? Although this is a three-way battlefield, we aristocratic families care about our feelings. Do you want the Chow family to become enemies with the Sure family? Sure Hong threatened. His eyes were bloodshot. His opponent raised his mace just like that, and he had no choice but to shout and fight for his life. You seem to be mistaken about one thing. I've always been amenable to coaxing, but not coercion. Who cares about the Sure family? If you have the guts, go and settle the score with the Chow family. As he said this, Chu Feng swung his mace and smashed Sure Hong's head. Then, he waved his lightning fist and burned his corpse to ashes. Boom! The whole area was in an uproar. The young expert of the Sure family had been killed. The opponent showed no mercy at all, and it was like a barbaric dragon in human form. Wherever he passed, there was a rain of blood. Chu Feng looked back and saw that the group of people following him had fallen behind again. The main reason was that he had run too fast and killed too many people. Then he slung his mace on his back and turned back to attack. His fists shone with golden light and were curled up with blood energy. He was using battle to nurture battle, using the blood of 10,000 spirits to comprehend the Tao. Chow, so powerful. Deafening shouts came from the area. The followers were both shocked and delighted. Following such a great vanguard to kill the enemy was simply too delightful. They pushed forward with very few casualties. Cut through them, kill. Chu Feng waved his hand and led them forward again. This time, they were targeting those with flags and chariots. The area was in complete chaos. Just as he had said, they were about to be cut through as the evolvers from the opposing camp chased after them. Sometimes, they even killed their way through and ran ahead of their enemies. Savage, where did these barbarians come from? A loud shout rang out. A chariot rumbled as the enemy's famous vanguard charged over. It belonged to the dragon race, but it was a different type of dragon. It was shaped like a large lizard, and its entire body was jet black. It had a pair of wings and was covered in dense scales that blossomed with black light. This was a black dragon that had set its eyes on Chu Feng. It was a top-level entity. Giant lizard, you dare to make me your enemy? Chu Feng shouted. I'm here to kill you. The black dragon roared. It soared into the air and transformed into a black sun. It erupted with blazing black light as it swooped down in this direction. Those who dare to speak to me are all dead, Chu Feng shouted. He directly faced the enemy and used his ultimate fist. Boom! Black lightning erupted. The black dragon opened its mouth and a concentrated thunderbolt descended, but couldn't harm Chu Feng. Giant lizard, the fire isn't mature enough. Use more strength. Chu Feng shouted. In the blink of an eye, the black dragon transformed into a man with a gloomy expression. Black light erupted around his body as he charged toward Chu Feng. They met head-on. The entire area blossomed with black light and ripples spread in all directions. The black dragon was a divine beast with a terrifying bloodline and astonishing battle prowess. Its physical body was especially powerful, and it had shrunk to the size of a human. Its sturdiness was even greater, but now it let out a muffled groan. It had suffered greatly in the battle against Chu Feng. Before long, it couldn't help but roar. In the end, it flew into the air and transformed into its true form. Large areas of its black scales fell off. Chu Feng smashed out with fist after fist, attacking continuously. The black dragon roared. Its body was covered in blood as it resisted with all its might. In the end, it even wanted to escape into the sky. Unfortunately, Chu Feng didn't give it this opportunity. He had long since leapt into the air, grabbed its tail, and flipped onto its body. Boom! Accompanied by blinding light and terrifying dragon roars, the two fought at close quarters. In the end, the black dragon let out a mournful cry and fell to the ground. It had been killed by Chu Feng barehandedly, and its blood flowed everywhere. Too weak. Are there any stronger ones? Chu Feng shouted. Everyone in this area was speechless. That was a divine beast. It was killed by you just like that, and you're still calling it weak? HM, I see it. Chu Feng revealed an odd expression. He discovered the great banner of the human king family. The character MO was extremely eye-catching in the distance. Brothers, I'm going to cross regions to fight. Follow me. This time we're going to cut through this place horizontally. Chu Feng shouted. Everyone felt a bit dizzy. This person treated the battlefield as if it didn't exist and acted as if it was nothing. He would kill wherever he wanted. He was too valiant. Fortunately, the MO family's banner wasn't very far from this place. It was only separated by the Black Dragon banner, but now the Black Dragon had already been killed. Little bastard from the Human King family, don't try to be fierce. Your Grandpa Chow is here, don't run. Chu Feng shouted. Sure enough, it was just as he said. He cut through the battlefield and charged horizontally. Immediately, the evolvers in that region were unspeakably miserable. A humanoid monster came and swept through everything in its path. No one could stop it. In the end, Chu Feng succeeded in killing his way over. He felt that using his fists wasn't enough, so he swung the Wolf Fawn Club again. The killing area was too large, and with each sweep, blood gushed out. The main reason was that after the ultimate fist had absorbed many symbols, he felt that it was too much. He needed to digest them and comprehend them thoroughly before continuing. Otherwise, it would be too complicated and affect him. Chow, who are you? Which Chow family? Someone from the MO family shouted. There were many followers of the MO family in front of the war chariot. At the same time, there were evolvers directly related to the MO family. After Chu Feng arrived, he didn't say anything and swung the Wolf Fawn Club. He really didn't have a good impression of the MO family. Last time, he had used the Dark World Hunters, but they didn't have the desired effect. Now, it was just the right time to continue killing. Crack! Crack! This area was smashed into a complete mess by Chu Feng, causing everyone to flee in disorder. The MO family's people were swept away, and a few direct descendants were bleeding. In the end, they died a violent death. There was a young lady on the war chariot, and she was being chased by Chu Feng. This area was in complete chaos. All the evolvers at the Golden Body realm fled at the sight of the wind, hating the fact that they didn't have a pair of legs. Damn, what's going on? Chow's so fierce. At this time, the six-eared macaque arrived. Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao also arrived. They could be considered to have rushed through the battlefield, mainly because they were afraid that Chowda, who was encountering such a big scene for the first time, would die miserably due to his lack of experience. Who would have thought that Chowda would be so savage, fighting across regions? The three of them had just arrived when they heard that he had killed the Shur family's youth and the Black Dragon Vanguard. Now, he was chasing after the MO family's young lady. Brother, take it easy. Mi Tian shouted. The MO family was not an ordinary family. They were a human king family and a foreign desolate race. Ordinary people would have to give them face, but Chowda didn't care. He was about to succeed. Brother, capture her alive. The Peng King shouted. He could see that Chowda was too savage. He swung his big club and wanted to kill the young lady, not leaving her alive. Dang! The Wolf Fawn Club smashed into the speeding war chariot, causing sparks to fly. Dang! 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 For a moment, It was as if iron was being forged. Chu Feng couldn't help but sigh. The Mo family's war chariot was much sturdier than the Sure family's. Fortunately, the Wolf Fawn Club he had snatched from the monkey was not ordinary. In the end, the speeding war chariot collapsed, and the young lady fell out. Rumble. He was about to smash down with his club. Brother, capture her alive and exchange her for scriptures, mother gold, and the strongest pollen. If that's not enough, she can even warm the bed. Don't waste it. The monkey shouted from behind. With a buzz, Chu Feng stopped his Wolf Fawn Club and hung it in front of the young lady's forehead. He captured her alive and threw her to the people behind him. Who else is strong? Give me some pointers. Today I'll capture all of them and turn them into prisoners. Chu Feng said. The monkey and the others felt dizzy. They quickly pulled him back and told him to stop before going too far. He would capture and kill them next time. Today was enough. What about the white tiger girl and the tin-tailed celestial fox? Chu Feng asked. Chow, wait for us. We heard you, and we'll pass the message to the two fairies. The servant shouted from afar. Damn, who are you scolding? My name is Chowda. Chu Feng glared and then chased after them with his club. Then, the group of people broke down and ran for their lives. I knew it. Those with the in their names are not to be trifled with. They are all cruel and vicious. They're not good people. Someone shouted as he ran. Those who were on good terms with the Mo family deeply felt the malice from the degeneration. Behind them, Chu Feng's face was full of black lines. As for the monkey, he was all smiles and stopped Chu Feng from chasing. He said, Don't chase a cornered enemy. Moreover, what they said makes sense. What kind of F***king sense is there? Let go. All your monkey hair is stuck to my hand. Chapter 1189. Chu Feng was calm. He glanced at him and patted his shoulder. Calm in the face of big things. At the side, Peng Wanli heard this and glared at him. How could he be calm? Who was the one running around the battlefield with a wolf-tooth club, killing people endlessly? Monkey bared his teeth. If we hadn't come, you would have continued like this. Chu Feng said, You mean we should stop now? I think we should catch a few more. Look, these little cabbages are too easy to catch. We can exchange them for the strongest pollen and fruits. As he spoke, he pointed at the girl from the Mo family. This girl was tall and graceful. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and her face was smooth and tender. Now that she heard Chu Feng say that she was a cabbage, black lines appeared on her forehead. Then, her face was filled with anger and grief. Six-eared macaque said, That's enough. Little sister from the Mo family, hurry up and write a letter. Ask your family to send the strongest pollen from Awakened to Saint. Give me 12 jars and I promise to send you back. Otherwise, do you see this guy? His surname is Chow. What a bastard surname. Also, his name is Da. You should know that the degeneration doesn't have any good people. If you don't agree, he will make you give birth to a monkey for him before letting you go. Chu Feng glared at him and waved his club in front of Monkey. Six-eared, what do you mean by this? You want her to give birth to a monkey, and you want me to be the scapegoat? Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao were speechless when they heard this. Monkey was speechless too. In the end, he said, Didn't they all say they wanted to give birth to monkeys? F***CKU. Go catch a few more cabbages and ask for more ransom. Chu Feng said with a natural expression. Monkey, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao all felt that it was natural for him to do such things. Was he a repeat offender in the past? They were so suspicious. In reality, they had guessed correctly. Chu Feng's business skills in the lesser netherworld were too good. He wasn't called a human trafficker for nothing. You're really going? Six-eared macaque shrieked. That was because Chu Feng had really rushed into the battlefield with his mace. Chu Feng said, It's a reasonable hunt. Why don't you go? Let me tell you, if you don't contribute, you won't get a share of the strongest fruit that we exchange for these cabbages in the future. Little cabbages, I'm coming. Chu Feng shouted. Many people looked at him, especially the people on the other side. When they saw this savage charging over again, they were all terrified. Chu Feng carried the big stick and chased after him, rushing towards another war chariot in the distance. Let's follow him. It will be troublesome if he is stopped and trapped, Peng Wanli said. He was worried that something might happen to Chu Feng. After all, this was a battlefield, and things could change in an instant. If he was not careful, he might run into a fierce opponent. The three battlefields didn't lack fierce people, for example, the tin-tailed celestial fox, the Buddhist race, etc. 8-colored deer. Are you provoking me? Chu Feng shouted. That was because, on a war chariot under a banner, an 8-colored deer looked at Chu Feng with disdain. It didn't even try to dodge. The horn on its head erupted with 8-colored radiance. It was as if a resplendent sun had appeared, illuminating this place with a divine aura. This deer didn't even look at Chu Feng straight in the eye and carried a look of disdain. Degeneration. What are you acting so arrogant for? Get over here. That 8-colored deer scolded. Did the degeneration provoke you? Grandpa Chow is here. Chu Feng shouted as he charged towards the deer. He wanted to capture and kill this powerful divine deer. Damn, that's an 8-colored mutant desolate deer? This fellow directly rushed over just like that. The monkey's expression changed. He sucked in a breath of cold air. He knew that he had encountered a fierce opponent. Mutant desolate deer were powerful to begin with, and an 8-colored one was definitely a top-notch expert in the same realm. It was extremely rare. The most crucial thing was that he was acquainted with that 8-colored deer. They had a private relationship. Sure enough, when Chu Feng raised his club and rushed over, that deer's horn erupted with a great sun disk. It suddenly erupted and smashed towards Chu Feng. Between the two, dazzling beams of energy erupted. With dang-dang sounds, Chu Feng continuously brandished the wolf-tooth club in his hand, striking the air until it exploded. Energy erupted like an underwater volcano. Within the raging waves, red magma erupted. The 8-colored deer's body swayed. It was a bit dizzy. Ever since it came to this battlefield, it had always been incomparably conceited. It had always been invincible. But today, this madman was actually so powerful that even it felt apprehensive. It originally thought that it could capture him. Peng Wanli said in shock, "Last time, 6 of our vanguards joined hands to fight against this 8-colored deer, but they were all killed. Who would have thought that Chowda would be so fierce today, directly facing it head-on?" He hadn't seen Chowda and the monkeys battle. Although he knew that Chowda was powerful, it was limited to rumors. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he immediately sighed. This was a madman, extremely powerful. Chowda! The 8-colored deer cried out angrily. It soared into the air. Its fur was glossy like satin. 8 colors revolved around it. This kind of bloodline that surpassed divine beasts was extremely terrifying. It imperceptibly produced a kind of domain that could tear apart the void. It started running, taking the initiative to attack Chu Feng. The great sun disk on its head shone, becoming even more terrifying. Divine radiance shone down. It smashed its head forward, wanting to suppress and kill its enemy. Your hostility towards me isn't shallow. Come over here. Chu Feng shouted. He raised his club and smashed it down again. At the same time, his left hand moved. Dazzling radiance revolved around it. That was the accumulation of lightning. This was the application of the lightning fist. In his fist, a ball of lightning formed. Its power erupted, becoming many times more terrifying than before. This was the embodiment of the lightning fist's great success. Kacha! Chu Feng's left fist was like a rainbow, wrapped in lightning. Half of his body was bathed in golden splendor. Dozens of balls of lightning whistled past, smashing towards the 8-colored deer with extreme speed. At the same time, the club in his right hand also erupted with dazzling light. Every wolfong nail was extremely sharp as they smashed down. This area was like raging waves beating against the shore. The two collided intensely. The 8-colored deer opened its mouth and spat out a green lamp, illuminating the area. It resisted all the lightning and even absorbed it. Meanwhile, it leapt again, smashing towards Chu Feng. Its 2 horns shone, wanting to break the wolf fawn club. At this moment, they were like 2 beams of light entangled, colliding fiercely and killing each other. For a moment, the balls of lightning exploded. The green lamp flickered and gushed out flames, wanting to burn Chu Feng. It was very frightening. This was the Samadhi true fire, capable of melting all things. At the same time, the great sun disk on the eight-colored deer's head collided with Chu Feng's wolf fawn club. The two resonated, causing energy to fluctuate. It was like a mountain torrent had erupted, engulfing everything. In this area, countless evolvers were sent flying, all of them coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. It could be seen that with Chu Feng and the eight-colored deer as the center, energy ripples rapidly spread out and swept across the battlefield. Circles of energy waves rippled out from them. They looked divine, but the destructive power was too astonishing. There were many golden-bodied creatures in this area. After being swept by the gentle ripples, they directly exploded and turned into a bloody mist on the spot. It was too late to evade. The great battle between the two was too fast and too fast. The main reason was that the evolvers in this area were too densely packed, so they couldn't evade. Even in the sky, some flying vicious birds couldn't evade. There were golden divine eagles disintegrating, winged dragons exploding, and silver bats screaming miserably as they turned into a rain of blood. The battle here was too terrifying. Chu Feng and the eight-colored deer fought incomparably fiercely and were entangled together. "Monkey, whose deer is this? Why is it stronger than you?" Chu Feng cried out strangely. He hadn't expected to encounter such a troublesome creature when he had just arrived on the battlefield. Its strength was tyrannical and could contend for supremacy with the six-eared macaque. The eight-colored deer was furious. What kind of nonsense was this? They had been fighting for so long, yet he still didn't know who it was. He was actually asking whose deer it was? How preposterous! Mi Tian, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao were also speechless. This barbarian ally was too tough. Did he not even know who this peerless golden body master was? Asterisk boom. Asterisk Chu Feng went berserk. He threw away his mace and fought with the eight-colored deer. Twice, he was struck by the deer's antlers and sent flying. However, he finally found an opportunity. He leapt up, grabbing the antlers that released eight-colored brilliance and evolved a great sun. With a spin, he landed on the antler's back. During this process, the webbing between his thumb and forefinger split open as he was struck by the great sun wheel formed by the deer's antlers. Chu Feng was shocked. This was truly a terrifying deer, worthy of its exotic, desolate name. It was simply too difficult to deal with. If others knew what he was thinking, they would most likely remain silent. Such a powerful, exotic, desolate beast was only described as difficult to deal with. This was the invincible king of the battlefield. At the same time, they were also shocked. Chowda was actually riding on the eight-colored deer. Everyone was thrown into a state of confusion. Even Monkey was scratching his ears and cheeks as he said, "This is big trouble. Chao Kuangtu really doesn't want to live. He might as well just hit it with his mace. Why is he sitting on it?" Peng Wanli's face also turned green. No matter what, this eight-colored deer could not be killed. Even if they paid a huge price to capture it, they would probably only be able to obtain some benefits in the end, because its identity was too shocking. Heavens, Chowda is riding on it. How audacious! The invincible eight-colored deer actually suffered a loss. Many people exclaimed, their faces filled with shock. On the battlefield, the entire area fell silent for a moment before it was filled with noise again. The eight-colored deer flew into a rage out of humiliation and began fighting fiercely, 8 different flames leaping out of its body, burning Chu Feng as it tried to throw him off. "It's very wild. Is this deer male or female? I'm going to take it as a mount," shouted Chu Feng. In the distance, six-eared macaque and the other's eyes turned green. They felt that the situation was not good. Chowda's shouting and questioning made things even more troublesome. "It can't really be the exotic, desolate race's princess, right?" asked Chu Feng. Chapter 1190. Go to hell. The eight-colored deer's entire body was gushing with radiance. It transformed into 8-color divine flames that burned intensely, distorting the entire space and making it seem like it was about to collapse. Chu Feng howled and felt that this deer was becoming more and more difficult to deal with. He grimaced in pain and said, "Wild nature is hard to tame. I'll beat it up." He unleashed a lightning fist on the deer's back. Balls of lightning erupted, causing the 8-colored deer to tremble. The patterns on its body became even brighter. The azure lamp floated in the air, and a boundless murderous light blasted towards Chu Feng. Its fur emitted radiance, and all of them were order runes. These patterns interweaved together and shot towards Chu Feng to trap him. So abnormal! Chu Feng was astonished. The 8 types of runes on the 8-colored deer's body were like a large net that was about to bind him. The divine flames were burning, posing a great threat to him. "You're the abnormal one." The 8-colored deer was humiliated and angry. "Monkey, why don't you come and catch this cabbage? Help me, is it male or female?" Chu Feng asked again. The 8-colored deer became even more humiliated and angry after hearing this. It immediately erupted, and beams of light shot towards the heavens. It wanted to transform and fight in human form. In any case, it had already been shouted out by Chowd on the battlefield, so what else could it be afraid of? At the same time, it was very regretful. It shouldn't have been so conceited before, and it should have used its second form to fight. "Male!" It was at this time that the monkey cried out loudly. It was as if his buttocks were on fire, and he was shouting anxiously. He was actually being rushed by Chu Feng. After hearing this, the 8-colored deer resisted the urge to transform. Its radiance became even more brilliant, and the 8 types of runes on its body pulsed, binding Chu Feng and wanting to kill him instead. "What's with your gaze? Why do I feel like it's female?" Chu Feng asked suspiciously. "It's really young Master Lu, I guarantee it." At this time, Peng Wanli also wiped away his sweat. Only some people from the enemy camp were suspicious. They felt that this was Princess Lu and not her little brother. Monkey shouted anxiously, "The siblings are famous on this battlefield. Today, the one fighting is the younger brother. Chowda, you have to be careful. Although we are opponents now, we are friends in private. Don't mess around." Chu Feng was even more suspicious when he heard that. Judging from the expressions of Monkey and the others, as well as the fact that the 8-colored deer did not transform at the end, could it be Princess Lu? Could it be that its current state made it feel ashamed and resentful, so it held back its transformation and prepared to let its younger brother be the scapegoat? "Brother deer, don't be angry. This savage doesn't know anything. We can still be friends in private." Monkey shouted. This was practically a last-minute betrayal. Chu Feng was speechless. He could see that the 8-colored deer race was extremely terrifying. Even the 6-eared macaque was afraid of them. "Monkey, are these the scoundrels you want to make friends with? I'll settle this debt for bullying me like this." The 8-colored deer said indignantly from embarrassment. At this moment, all the stripes on its body were glowing. They were beautiful and astonishing, radiating an increasingly divine radiance. Strand after strand, they finally formed an 8 trigrams mirror suspended above its body. This was the embodiment of its innate divine art. It wanted to imprison and kill Chu Feng. At this moment, the void froze, and even time seemed to have stopped. Chu Feng was astonished. He finally understood why the monkey had such an attitude. This race was indeed terrifying. This kind of innate divine ability was too astonishing. Was this the control of the void? At this time, he found it difficult to move. If it was someone else, they would have been completely petrified. Ah Chu Feng roared. His whole body erupted with dazzling brilliance as he circulated the robbery induction breathing technique. White mist gushed out of his mouth and nose. This was the embodiment of energy being purified to the extreme. At the same time, a faint light appeared outside his body. This was the result of him deliberately suppressing his humanoid king bloodline. He didn't want to fully display his humanoid king domain and be spied on. Recently, he had already figured out the humanoid king domain, but once he activated it, the effects were already apparent. He broke the balance, and the space was no longer frozen. He had directly broken through the bindings. Moreover, he used his ultimate fist. With a bang, he smashed it toward the 8 trigrams mirror above his head. For a moment, this place was filled with energy explosions. Multicolored lights spread out in all directions. The ground cracked and sank continuously. The 8-colored deer neighed and ran madly. It was both angry and ashamed. At the same time, it was resentful that it couldn't suppress this madman and had suffered a great loss. The most infuriating thing was that this madman was riding on its body. If news of this got out, it wouldn't sound good at all. People would think it had lost and become this savage's mount. At this point, it couldn't bear the humiliation. Moreover, it had the mentality of an ostrich. It secretly apologized to its younger brother and let him take the blame. It wanted to shake off Chu Feng and directly escape. Today, it felt too humiliated and resentful. It was extremely regretful. Normally, it was in human form and peerless in style. Today, it had transformed into the 8-colored deer ancestor. In the end, it had attracted this vile person and almost become a mount. 8-colored deer, submit and become my mount. When the time comes, I'll take you to the 33 heavens and unify the world of the living. We'll kill our way to reincarnation. Follow me. Chu Feng shouted. When Princess Lu heard this, it was simply intolerable. But now, it was truly difficult for her to effectively kill the other party. Boom! On her back, the 8 types of runes revolved once again as the 2 antlers transformed into crescent blades. They flew out and slashed towards Chu Feng. It's useless. I'm invincible, shouted Chu Feng. Runes circulated in his eyes as he activated the eyes of fire and gold in secret. Divine light erupted and knocked away the 2 curved blades. The divine deer horns returned and then erupted with energy once again. The great sun disk floated out and smashed toward Chu Feng. Moreover, there was a great explosion. This was completely a desperate move. Pa! Chu Feng slapped the 8-colored deer's buttocks and borrowed the force to fly out. He chose to leave its back because he had no choice but to retreat. Otherwise, he would really be destroyed indiscriminately. The 8-colored deer was almost driven mad. It had actually been slapped in the buttocks. Its 4 hooves stomped on the ground, causing the earth to split open. Multicolored light rushed into the heavens, and raging flames surged around it. Radiance illuminated all directions, and its gaze seemed to be murderous. Chu Feng landed on the ground. The great sun disk had been absorbed by the various stripes of symbols on the 8-colored deer's body and did not explode. But in the end, it glanced at Chu Feng and chose to flee. It endured its resentment and left this place first. It really did not want to continue fighting. Hey, little deer, you dare deceive me? Where are you going? My mount, return. Chu Feng chased after it with his long legs. Whoosh, whoosh, he chased after the 8-colored deer. At this moment, the battlefield was in a complete mess because of the man and the deer. Everyone in the distance was petrified. That was the undefeated 8-colored deer that had swept through the battlefield, but it was actually being chased by someone. Brother, don't chase anymore. Stop before you go too far and avoid being surrounded by enemies, shouted the monkey. Chu Feng said, Whose side are you on? Are you warning them? Hurry up and follow me. Chase after this little cabbage and capture the 8-colored deer alive. This is the strongest mount I've set my eyes on. The monkey, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao were all speechless. In the end, they gritted their teeth and chased after it. At the same time, they shouted, Kill. Surround the 8-colored deer race's prince and capture him alive. They chased after it. The army behind them was stirred up. This was the first time someone had beaten the 8-colored deer into such a sorry state. Everyone flocked to chase after it. In front, when Princess Lu heard this, she knew that the 6-eared macaque was covering up for her, pushing the blame onto her brother to hide her identity. She was grateful and angry at the same time. What kind of rotten friend did this monkey have? He actually dared to treat her like this. And now, he was still unwilling to forgive her and even called her a little cabbage. Rumble. Chu Feng carried his cudgel and crushed everything in his way. He swept through the creatures of the various races with incredible speed as he chased after Princess Lu relentlessly. No one could stop him. Under the huge flag, on a war chariot, there was a young expert. At this moment, he was cursing in his heart. The people around him were all running away, but could he? If someone of his status fled without a fight, it would be too embarrassing. Chapter 1191. There's a big flag over there with the word Supreme on it. Don't tell me it's the Taiwu old tortoise's disciple. I can use this opportunity to kill my way over. Chu Feng's eyes shone brightly. He saw the flag in the distance and the war chariot there. The 8-colored deer happened to be fleeing in that direction. The deer's body was flowing with radiance, as though it was stepping on colorful clouds. It was too fast and agile, fleeing at godly speed. But even so, it couldn't shake off Chu Feng. The distance between them didn't increase. "Those who block me will bear the consequences," shouted Chu Feng. In front of him, an explosion rang out. Countless evolvers scattered in all directions, not daring to stop him at all. At this point, everyone in this region knew that a barbarian had arrived, and he was destroying everything in his path. Whoever dared to stop him would definitely be killed by him. With a rumble, Chu Feng's body glowed with lightning. He had used the lightning fist to the acme of perfection, becoming one with lightning as he charged forward. He was using the radiance of lightning to conceal his human monarch blood chi. Otherwise, his blue and golden blood would be blended and circulating on the surface of his body. But now lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. His body was bathed in arcs of electricity as he moved at extreme speed. Outsiders couldn't see it. He almost caught up to the 8-colored deer. He leaped up again, wanting to ride on it and capture the beast. Princess Lu was furious. Her body erupted with 8-colored light as she attacked backward. However, Chu Feng borrowed this force to charge toward the war chariot at the side. He charged toward the youth under the supreme flag and suppressed him. In his left palm, a ball of lightning formed and interweaved into a small sea of stars. After being shot out and detonated, it was no less than a heavenly tribulation. Rumble. The flag was immediately shattered, and the youth was also covered in lightning. "Chowda, you're courting death." The youth was shocked and furious. The other party had really attacked him. Attacking the 8-colored deer wasn't enough, but he was also attacking him at the same time. He met the attack head-on. The two collided violently, erupting with blinding light. F***CK. Have you gone mad? Why are you purposely looking for a tough bone to chew? Are you planning to wipe out all the top-notch golden Arhood experts on the battlefield in one fell swoop? The monkey rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache. Isn't he just a disciple of the extreme martial branch? Watch how I kill him with a single slap, shouted Chu Feng. Who told you he's an evolver from the extreme martial lineage? He's a core disciple of the Great Void Sect. Monkey shouted from behind. Chu Feng really wanted to say, "It's obviously Taishu. Will it kill me to write one more word?" In order to prevent others from thinking and guessing, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, "They're all from the Tai generation, about the same. I don't think they're anything good." Rumble. He raised his club and smashed it down fiercely. Princess Lu ran away without any sense of loyalty and didn't even pause for a moment. Meanwhile, the Great Void Sect's disciple fought fiercely with Chu Feng. He was indeed powerful and was a famous young expert of Yi province. However, in the end, he was still defeated. He was beaten by Chu Feng until his head was full of bumps, his face was swollen, and his mouth and nose were bleeding. Bang! In the end, he was kicked off the chariot by Chu Feng. He shouted to the people behind him, "Tie this little cabbage up too. Too cruel." Many people had the same thought. How long had it been? He had cut through the enemy's camp and swept his way, killing 2 vanguards and capturing 2 vanguard from the aristocratic families. As for the other golden body evolvers along the way, who knew how many had been crushed by him. Afterward, Chu Feng carried his wolf fawn club and ran madly, chasing after Princess Lu's ass again. He hadn't given up yet and was still chasing after her. "All right, That's enough, six-eared macaque shouted. Chu Feng was dissatisfied. Monkey, little Peng, are you guys going easy on me? Why didn't you chase after that 8-color deer when I was dealing with the Taishu sect disciples? Peng Wan's face twitched. He was overreacting to that title and glared at Chowda with dissatisfaction. The monkey shouted, "Damn it, you really want to kill them all? Don't tell me you want to kill all the famous golden-bodied experts on this battlefield at the same time? That's exactly what I'm thinking. They're all cabbages, so I'll just capture one or two. Let's just capture a bunch." Chu Feng nodded. He didn't care at all. He came to the battlefield for actual combat, for experience. If things got out of hand in the future, he could just abandon his identity as Chowda and leave. He wouldn't lose anything. "Aren't you afraid of being besieged?" Mi Tian asked. "Monkey, are you trying to betray us? Who cares about friendship on the battlefield? When two armies confront each other, we can only charge forward bravely. It's just like cultivation. If you think too much, you won't be able to advance or retreat, and it'll be difficult to achieve super evolution." Mi Tian was speechless after hearing this. Was this Chowder really honest, or was he pretending? He was actually lecturing him here, acting like he had just come out of the woods, full of barbaric attributes. "Kill!" Chu Feng roared, wielding his mace and chasing after Princess Lu with all his might. In fact, with this delay, the 8-color deer had already disappeared. She withdrew from this battlefield and directly returned to the camp. She transformed into a graceful young lady with an 8-color dress that fluttered in the wind. She was devastatingly beautiful, but now, her originally quick-witted eyes were filled with rage. She wanted nothing more than to shatter the heavens with a single slap. "I'm so angry." When she thought of that Chowda riding on her ferociously, trying to subdue her and make her his mount, she hated even Monkey. As for Chowda, he was already on her blacklist, #1. "Sister, what's wrong?" A young man in embroidered clothes walked over, looking elegant. "Brother, I'm sorry. You've taken the blame for me this time," Princess Lu said. When her brother heard the details, he couldn't believe it and was in a daze. He was ridden on the battlefield, and he wanted to make him his mount? How dare he bully my sister like this? I, Lu Dingtian, am not done with him. I'll kill him right now. The young man in white roared. "Remember, you're the one who bullied you, not me," Princess Lu emphasized. Lu Dingtian's face paled. Had he lost face for no reason this time? He was so angry he wanted to bang his head against the wall. But since his sister had given such an order, he couldn't retort. "I'll go kill him." Lu Dingtian turned and rushed towards the battlefield. "Be careful. Don't let him take you as his mount," Princess Lu warned. "Don't worry, I'll kill him. He's just a savage. You can't fight him, but I'm not afraid. I'll fight him to the end. My 8-colored invincible golden body wasn't cultivated for nothing." Lu Dingtian ran, not wanting to stay a moment longer. He had to kill his way to the battlefield to wash away the shame from not long ago. That was like having his ass on fire. At the same time, the 10-tailed celestial fox also heard the news. Her beautiful face revealed a strange expression. Under the repeated pleas of many, she decided to go to the battlefield to take a look. At the same time, the girl from the white tiger tribe giggled. This extremely ferocious tigress also set off to see what was going on. The winds and clouds on the battlefield changed irregularly. In such a short period of time, Chu Feng traversed across the battlefield and broke 4 flags in one breath. He also captured 4 vanguard alive, and all of them were top-notch experts of the Golden Arhut realm. As for the other Golden Arhuts who dared to raise their secret treasures at him along the way, who knew how many had been killed by him. "Brother, it's about time to stop. Chowda, take it easy." "Stop. Chowda, stop right now. Do you want to poke a hole in the sky and stir up big trouble?" On the battlefield, one could tell how the monkey and Peng Wanli were feeling from how they addressed Chu Feng. In the end, they couldn't take it anymore. This guy was too good at making trouble. He had captured so many people in one go. When the time came, he would extort so many clans. It made them feel a little dizzy, and even their faces were a little green. That was because there was no lack of top-notch clans and super strong evolutionary sects among them. The monkey shouted and reminded Chu Feng. Chowda, it's about time to stop. If you go on like this, there'll be big problems. Next time we go on the battlefield, we will definitely be surrounded and beaten up. All the top-notch vanguards will join hands and hunt us down. What are you afraid of? Let me catch another one. Baldy, don't run, Chu Feng shouted. At this moment, let alone the monkey, even Peng Wanli, Xiao Yao, and many others were dizzy. Chowda rushed toward a son of Buddha, wanting to fight with him. This was one of the two strongest golden arhats of the Buddha race. However, unexpectedly, this son of Buddha dodged and didn't fight him. He retreated again and again. The main reason was that Chu Feng was holding a youth in his hand. It was a super strong vanguard that he had just captured. Now he was using him as a weapon, holding his ankle bone and sweeping away thousands of enemies. This son of Buddha in black robes didn't want to be the scapegoat for no reason, who would be responsible for killing the aristocratic clan's descendant in his hands. Not good. I seem to have discovered the tin-tailed heavenly fox. That tigress is also here. F***CK. Why aren't you retreating? Mi Tian was horrified and secretly shouted. Chu Feng turned back and glanced at him. To think that you are of the dead generation. Why are you so cowardly? What degeneration? The monkey was dumbfounded. Chu Feng said, Long to you, G-Dade. And you, the great crime, aren't they all of the dead generation? The monkey's eyes flashed fiercely, and he was incomparably angry. Who is ranked with them? My name is Mi Tian. Don't give me random nicknames. You can call me Degeneration, but I'm not allowed to call you Degeneration. Great crime, you are too cowardly. Chu Feng laughed. The monkey's face instantly turned green. This was a battlefield, and there were countless people here. Many of them were evolvers of the same level. If this nickname were to spread, there was no way to escape. It would definitely be pinned on his head. He didn't want to become a member of the dead generation with those two fugitives, even if he was beaten to death. Not good. Why is the secondary sage killing his way to our battlefield? At this moment, someone shouted. On the right side, there were some terrifying, ferocious beasts releasing holy chi. They roared and surged with blood chi. They collided fiercely and killed their way to this battlefield. They're actually charging towards us. Why don't we try killing the sages and have a rehearsal? Otherwise, we will have to face them sooner or later, Chu Feng said. Chapter 1192. This wasn't a single quasi-sage vicious beast charging over, but a group of them. For some reason, they had left their original area and were charging toward the golden body battlefield. Their roars shook the heavens. Monkey, your kin is here, shouted Chu Feng. The one in the lead was a violent ape with long black fur all over his body. He had a wide mouth full of fangs and powerful magic power. He was at least 30 meters tall and looked like a small mountain as he stood there. The black fur all over his body fluttered in the wind, making him look extremely ferocious. He had a pair of snow-white pupils that shot out two frightening beams of light. At this moment, the blood energy around his body was surging like scarlet flames, enveloping his black body. He was like a demon king that had escaped from hell. It had to be said that this violent ape was too powerful. Everywhere he passed, people were thrown into a complete mess. Although the evolvers he collided with were all at the golden body realm, all of them had their bones broken and tendons torn. Once caught, they would be torn into two and blood rained down. It was too savage. This is an ape god. The six-eared macaque's expression was cold. He clearly told everyone that once this kind of creature reached 800 years of age, it would inevitably become a divine king. This was the case even if it didn't cultivate. It was an extremely tyrannical creature. Of course, the members of this race were extremely rare. There weren't many of them in the Yang realm, less than 100 in total. At the same time, even though they could become divine kings as soon as they reached the age limit, it was just as difficult to become a celestial deity as it was for other races. There were no shortcuts. Chu Feng nodded. They were indeed very powerful. They didn't need to cultivate bitterly, and could become divine kings as soon as they reached the age limit. This was definitely a terrifyingly powerful race. Of course, he didn't really care. After all, His immediate goal was to become a divine king, and his intermediate goal was to become a celestial deity. The ape god was very powerful. He ran over with large strides, covering a distance of several dozen meters with each step. This was pure physical power, and every step was like a mountain crashing down. On the ground, many people were screaming miserably. There were too many evolvers at the Golden Body realm, and they were trampled into meat paste by his large feet. His whole body was shining, and his blood energy was like raging flames. It was simply unstoppable. Damn it! He crossed the line, barging into our battlefield. Who can be his opponent? Someone cried out in alarm. In just that short period of time, their losses were already disastrous. The ape gods tore apart dozens of experts in succession. Even the golden body grade vicious bird in midair was split into two after it leaped up and grabbed onto it. Blood sprinkled down. As for his fists, they caused many creatures to explode, and the ground was covered in blood. This was a demon. Behind him was a hedgehog. Its entire body was snow white, and it was over 2 meters long. It wasn't very large, but its destructive power was astonishing. The snow-white spikes on its body were like arrows, shooting out from time to time. Every strike was fatal, killing dozens of golden body creatures in the surroundings. Chi! A white feather arrow flew past Chu Feng's shoulder. It was too powerful. The fierce astral winds blew against Chu Feng's face, causing him pain. With a pu sound, not far behind him, even the sturdy tortoise shell of a turtle-race golden body cultivator was pierced through, nailed into the ground, and then exploded. Bang! Even further away, a golden mammoth was also struck by a white light. This hedgehog arrow couldn't be considered long, yet blasted the 10-meter-tall golden mammoth apart. After the elephant's body disintegrated, there was blood everywhere. The scene was somewhat terrifying. This battlefield became chaotic all of a sudden. The golden body experts fled in disorder because these two creatures were too terrifying. Everywhere they passed, there were broken limbs and blood stained the soil. There were practically no survivors in the places they passed by. Over 100 golden body creatures died in a short period of time, and all of them died very miserably. The disaster caused by these two creatures was even worse than Chu Feng's. In addition, the fear they evoked was even more astonishing. After all, they were quasi-sage-level vicious beasts. Once they entered this battlefield, many evolvers would feel fear from the bottom of their hearts and would collapse without a fight. In addition, these two creatures seemed to have gone mad. They didn't distinguish between friend and foe as they attacked the evolvers from both sides indiscriminately. They're mentally abnormal. I reckon they suffered a great loss on the other battlefield. Their soul light is damaged, and they're mentally deranged, said Peng Wanli. Xiaoyao nodded in agreement with this saying. There were pursuers behind the two vicious beasts. It was a general in golden armor. His entire body was covered in shiny chainmail that emitted glaring golden light as he chased after the two creatures. In addition, there was also a lustrous purple divine crane. It spread its wings and also chased after the two creatures. He was an evolver from the crane race and had transformed into a purple-haired man. These two people were very powerful, but it was difficult for them to suppress the ape gods and the white hedgehog for a while. That was because there were still quasi-sage level creatures behind them. They charged over and launched an attack on the two of them. A chaotic battle broke out, and it was extremely intense. They're charging over, so we can't not attack even if we don't want to. This is just the right time to test our cultivation and exchange blows with the quasi-sage, said Chu Feng. He had already avoided more than one white arrow. All of them had flown out from the hedgehog's body. Those white thorns seemed to be endless and could be shot out unceasingly. Many people in the vicinity let out blood-curdling screams as a large group fell down at a time. Kill! Monkey! Hedgehog! You're all courting death. How dare you harm my followers? Shouted Chu Feng as he charged over. All around him were evolvers who had charged and broken through the enemy lines with him. Now, he had no choice but to attack. He raised his big stick and charged over. Rumble! Chu Feng stomped on the ground. Every time he leapt forward, the ground would tremble and crack. The power of his feet was too strong, and he would charge over 300 meters with every step. At this time, his whole body was glowing. He was using the lightning fist to conceal his blood energy, because he had activated the humanoid monarch blood. Golden light was circulating in his blood, interweaving with blue light. Now, he was covered from head to toe in lightning and thunder. All kinds of electric arcs were resonating, and it was impossible to see his overflowing blood energy. Chu Feng was going all out to attack the quasi-sage. If this was the Little Een realm, he would have long since fled. That was because once the word sage was involved, there would be a huge chasm between his strength and that of a golden body. But it wasn't the case in the Yang realm. The rules of the Yang realm were complete, and the great Tao suppressed them. Not to mention a quasi-sage. Even a sage would find it difficult to leave the ground and fly into the air. In the Yang realm, only being able to fly into the sky could be considered a watershed that was difficult to cross. The difference in strength made people despair. So what if you're a quasi-sage? Chu Feng had arrived. He brandished his wolf-tooth stick and went to clash head-on with that ape god. He leapt over 30 meters into the air and then swooped down. His whole body was surging with splendor as if he was burning with divine flames. He held the big stick with both hands and smashed it toward the violent ape's head. This area of the void was trembling, rumbling. The violent ape actually had a short spear in his hand. Black light circulated and surged with energy. He roared and opened his bloody mouth, revealing his ghastly white fangs. He was exceptionally malevolent as he used the short spear to clash head-on with Chu Feng. Clang! At this moment, the sound of metal clashing resounded throughout the battlefield. Many people screamed and fell while covering their ears. The confrontation between these two was too fierce. At the same time, it was too tyrannical and deafening. In addition, there were energy ripples spreading outwards and sweeping many people away. Many people in the vicinity let out blood-curdling screams. Those with light injuries had their bones broken and tendons severed, while those with heavy injuries had their bodies covered in cracks and blood flowing out. Many people didn't seem to be able to survive. So ferocious. This Chow had directly confronted a quasi-sage. He's too terrifying. I was really lucky to be able to survive from his attack just now. Luckily, I ran fast and didn't get close to him. At this moment, the faces of many creatures from the opposing camp turned pale. Some people said these words while rejoicing inwardly. They felt as if they had just survived a calamity. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had never expected Chow to be so valiant. He carried his big stick and went up to attack the ape god without saying anything. Moreover, he was so powerful and didn't even use a sneak attack. No matter which camp they were from, everyone was dumbfounded. At this moment, on the battlefield, Chu Feng was flipped upside down. He was holding the wolf-tooth stick in one hand and swinging it with the other. The web between his thumb and forefinger had split open and blood was gushing out. His arm was in extreme pain. "Is a quasi-sage so hard to beat?" he shouted as he landed on the ground. Some people were speechless after hearing his words. What was a freak? This was a true example. He actually thought that a quasi-sage was easy to defeat? What kind of joke was this? In the Yang realm, how many golden body evolvers could beat a quasi-sage? Although they were restricted by the Great Tao and the difference in levels wasn't as obvious as it was in the Little Een realm, it was still difficult for a golden body realm entity to match a quasi-sage. In the Yang realm, just having the word sage attached to it was an embodiment of transcendence. To be able to fight a quasi-sage to the death, one could absolutely be considered a top-notch expert in the golden body realm. They could shake this generation and were influential figures in the golden body realm. In particular, people saw that the violent ape actually retreated a few steps and swung the short spear in its other hand. Peng Wanli sighed and said, "Freak, this guy's physical body is so strong. One must know that he isn't fighting a normal quasi-sage, but a 30-meter-tall ape god. This kind of entity is the most powerful." The corners of the monkey's mouth twitched because he wanted the right to speak the most. He had personally experienced it. Back then, he had suffered a great loss and was beaten black and blue in close combat. Tion, your physique is special and is good at fighting with your physical body. How do you feel? Xiaoyao asked. The six-eared monkey's face twitched, and in the end his expression was somewhat stupefied as he replied truthfully. His physique is currently even tougher than mine. Unless I go to the revered 8 trigrams furnace and burn a supreme body, I won't be able to surpass him in a short time. Peng Wanli said, That's also good. I have great hopes for this plan. With Chowda, we can most likely enter that list. Chu Feng and the ape gods began to fight. For a moment, it was like the sound of iron being struck from the heavenly realm. The reincarnation path was burning the true souls of various powerhouses. This kind of sound was penetrating and deafening. He clashed head-on with the ape gods, and it was incomparably intense. His blood energy surged as he fought with true flames. If he was dealing with someone from the extreme martial lineage, Chu Feng would most likely choose to ambush and hunt in secret. But now, he had come to the battlefield to temper himself, so he was fighting with brute force. Many people were petrified. This lord was too abnormal. Even the people from the opposing camp were dumbstruck. They were apprehensive of this savage's valiance. On the Western He province's side, the 2 Buddhist children were both dignified and incomparably solemn. One was draped in a golden monastic robe, while the other was draped in a black monastic robe. They were like 2 Buddhas walking in the mortal world. In addition, the girl from the White Tiger race had also arrived with a strange expression. She was actually able to find such a ferocious person. She was eager to give it a try and really wanted to go out and hunt him. The 10-tailed heavenly fox was charming and could topple cities. She could be considered enchanting and bewitching. Her bright eyes flickered as she silently paid attention to the battlefield. In addition, the people from the quasi-immortal race had also arrived. They were supporting the overlord of the Western He province. There were people from this race watching from afar, but they did not enter the battlefield. That was because the silver-haired girl whose strength far surpassed the golden Arhut realm was quietly watching the battle. Sister, is that him? It'll be difficult to kill him. Lu Dingtian watched from afar with a deep frown. Princess Lu was also astonished. That savage was so tyrannical that he was actually fighting a life and death battle with an ape god. The difficulty of suppressing him was not ordinary. Big Monkey, you're so powerful. You're even crazier than your brother, Chu Feng shouted. As he spoke, he glanced at the 6-eared macaque not far away. Immediately, Tian's face turned green. He really wanted to say, We're not from the same race, okay? Don't randomly point out relatives to me. Clang! The wolf-tooth club collided with the short spear. Every time they collided, it was as if heaven and earth were shaking. Energy light spread out in all directions like waves. Many people fled to hide. That was because this was a lesson learned in blood. Those who did not run away had fallen to the ground just now. Their bodies were full of cracks, and a small number of people had even been shaken to death. I don't believe I can't beat you, shouted Chu Feng. He flew around randomly and jumped into the air toward the violent ape. The club in his hand erupted with a dazzling radiance like a sun pressing down. This time, they collided several hundred times. The web between Chu Feng's thumb and forefinger was bleeding incessantly. Fortunately, it was evaporated by the lightning on the surface of his body, so no one discovered that he was using the human monarch's golden blood. Boom, boom, boom. The ape god was falling back. Under that kind of terrifying force, even someone as powerful as him staggered backward. When he stepped on a pothole, he almost fell to the ground. This is the bearing of an overlord. Someone sighed. A golden Arhut realm cultivator had forced a quasi-sage violent ape to retreat. This was truly shocking. Grandfather, why hasn't my brother made a move? Chowda can't be left alive. He's too strong. On the battlefield, in the rear of Chu Feng's camp, a youth secretly transmitted his voice. He was Hong Yu, and he wanted to replace Chu Feng. He wanted to form an alliance with the monkey and Peng Wanli so that he could enter the great list of Evolver's lifetime achievements. Hong Yunhai's expression was cold as he said, "There's no rush. It's better to be natural. This Chowda is really not simple. He's ridiculously powerful. I don't know why, but I have a vague feeling of palpitation. Your brother shouldn't have met with an accident, right?" Then he went to write the second chapter. It wouldn't be too late. Chapter 1193. Chu Feng's ferocious attack caused the ape god to stagger back with blood seeping out of the corner of his mouth. This was no less than an earthquake. It was unknown how many pairs of eyes were staring at the battlefield, but everyone was looking at each other with pale faces. Boom! The ape god was over 30 meters tall. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble. His blood energy was surging and his energy was dense. His saws were powerful and cracked the earth beneath his feet. He roared as a terrifying beam of light shot out from his white eyes. All the black hair on his body stood on end as he once again charged toward Chu Feng with the short spear in his hand. "Big monkey come!" Chu Feng shouted. He once again met force with force. Even though the wound between his thumb and forefinger wasn't light, and a large gash had opened up with blood flowing nonstop, his entire body was still surging with electricity. He controlled lightning and leapt up to fight the ape god in a decisive battle. The sound of metal clashing in this area was so deafening that it was almost unbearable. In the distance, the six-eared macaque's eyes were green. That was because every time Chu Feng called an ape god, he would call him Big Monkey. This made him feel sick of it. Boom! At the end of the confrontation, Chu Feng's club swung down. Sparks flew in all directions, and the short spear was slightly bent. The quasi-sage vicious ape couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed onto the battlefield like a mountain. Such a big guy with dense energy smashed into the ground, causing rocks to fly everywhere and smoke to soar into the sky. He was bleeding from his 7 orifices. "Mitian, I'll leave this big monkey to you. Tie him up and he'll be like a cabbage. You can exchange him for pollen, right?" Chu Feng shouted. The six-eared macaque's face darkened after hearing this. Was he doing this on purpose? After all, he was also an ape, but this guy was making a ruckus all over the battlefield. Chi chi chi. All of a sudden, arrows shot out like rainbows. The 2-meter-long hedgehog was covered in snow-white spikes as it shot toward Chu Feng like a divine arrow. Clang, clang, clang. The mace in Chu Feng's hand was waved incessantly, and a string of sparks splashed out. He withstood the enormous pressure as he ran forward while withstanding the quasi-sage level thorns. He wanted to shake this thorny quasi-sage, ferocious beast. Boom! The white hedgehog erupted with resplendent radiance. It was like a blazing divine flame, but also like a sun that was about to explode. Its entire body was dazzling, and its snow-white spikes were like rainbows as they continuously shot out. One could see that the great earth was pierced through. In the end, the ground was full of holes, smoke and dust overflowing into the heavens. In the distance, some people let out even more miserable cries as they couldn't dodge the quasi-saint level vicious beast's long spikes. Some of them had their foreheads pierced while others had their chests pierced. In the end, there was only one outcome. They were torn into pieces. It was because this kind of quasi-saint grade snow-white spike was invincible and possessed enormous strength. After it struck the bodies of golden body rank life forms, it was sufficient to blast them apart. The scene in the distance was extremely terrifying. Quite a few evolvers suffered a calamity. They weren't Chu Feng and couldn't block such a heavy arrow. A single spike was enough to send a person flying and explode in midair, causing a large amount of blood to rain down. The scene was quite terrifying and frightening. "Hedgehog, evil creature, hand over your life," Chu Feng shouted. He withstood the enormous pressure and smashed away dozens and hundreds of arrows. His arms were in intense pain and his body really couldn't take it anymore, but he finally charged forward. Clang! Chu Feng brandished his wolf fang club and smashed it toward its head. At this time, cold light flickered all over the snow-white hedgehog's body. It shrunk its neck and curled up into a ball of spikes. After that, it started to roll and charge toward Chu Feng. All the rocks along the way were pierced and then shattered. It carried astonishing energy and was invincible. Clang! Chu Feng made his move. The Wolf Fong club smashed down, causing the spikes all over its body to tremble. They were comparable to divine iron as they clanged and sparks flew everywhere. The most terrifying thing was that this hedgehog erupted at such a close distance. Apart from curling up its body, a large number of long spikes fell off and gathered together to shoot at Chu Feng. Bang! Outside Chu Feng's body, an expanse of golden light boiled. It was accompanied by lightning and stopped some of the long spikes before twisting them apart. In the distance, some people's pupils constricted. This method was somewhat astonishing. A quasi-sage level spike had actually been broken. This child has cultivated the lightning fist to the acme of perfection and can break quasi-sage level bone spikes. His strength is astonishing, Hong Yinhai said with a gloomy expression. However, he had guessed wrong. Chu Feng was using the lightning fist as a cover. His true trump card was the human monarch's golden blood, which had evolved into a domain and twisted the concentrated spikes shooting toward the surface of his body. Even though the arrows were like rainbows, they had all exploded and were fixed in place in front of him. However, it was extremely strenuous for Chu Feng. After all, this was a quasi-sage level entity. He felt that if this went on, he might really be shot to death by this hedgehog. It wasn't that easy to fight across realms, especially against a quasi-sage. Normally speaking, golden-bodied entities didn't have this qualification. Rumble. He brandished the big club with one hand and used the ultimate fist with the other to bombard this hedgehog. Don't worry, we're here. At this time, a shout came from the distance. The quasi-sages belonging to the Yongzhou camp had broken away from some vicious beasts and were charging over. Some of them were shooting arrows to kill the white hedgehog. For a moment, the arrows were like rainbows. They were incomparably frantic, as if they were pouring down in torrents from the sky and enveloped the white hedgehog. It was all the quasi-sages who were shooting arrows. Roar! This white hedgehog was startled and furious. It was originally mentally deranged, but now it was hysterical and had sunk into a state of madness. It resisted with all its might because it was injured. Some arrows had pierced through its body and blood was flowing out. It was letting out strange cries that were somewhat frightening and unpleasant to the ears. The soul light was intimidating. For a moment, its entire body was burning and the radiance was several times more dazzling than before. It seemed as if its body was about to disintegrate, and the most crucial point was that all the spikes on its body had fallen off in a desperate counterattack. At this moment, the radiance illuminated the entire battlefield. This was especially true in this place. The dazzling snow-white radiance was too terrifying and made everyone unable to look straight at it. As for the center of the battlefield, Chu Feng really wanted to curse out loud. Was the person shooting the arrows in the sky sick? He had driven this hedgehog crazy and caused him to suffer a bloody misfortune. He was too close. With so many long spikes flying over, even his humanoid king realm golden blood boiled and formed the golden body domain, he couldn't quite block them all. Additionally, this hedgehog was disintegrating and was going to burn indiscriminately. How could he evade at such a close distance? The quasi-sage's explosion would definitely drag him down with it. Especially at this moment, some of the arrows shooting down from the sky were aimed at him. Other people couldn't see because the battlefield was too glaring and snow-white, but he was the one directly involved. Immediately, his hair stood on end because someone was coming for him. Just who was it? The target was actually him. They wanted to shoot him to death. Swoosh! Chu Feng didn't dare take the risk. At this moment, he used his domain methods and directly disappeared from his original position, sinking into the depths of the earth. Of course, he was holding a piece of magnetic marrow in his hand. It was full of runes and began to burn as he moved. If someone were to spy on him, they would think that this was a life-saving domain talisman. Even so, it was extremely dangerous for him to react quickly. This white hedgehog exploded. Quasi-sage level energy surged and wreaked havoc as it exploded underground. A flower of blood blossomed on Chu Feng's arm. It wasn't an injury caused by the self-detonation of a quasi-sage level vicious beast, nor was it caused by the white hedgehog spikes. Instead, it was another kind of arrow. It was also white, but after it pierced Chu Feng's arm, it caused his blood to mutate and wanted to dissolve him in an instant. This was too terrifying. In a split second, Chu Feng found a forbidden weapon, the Sky Demon Blood Dissolving Blade. Once this kind of blade struck a person, it would immediately dissolve their flesh and disintegrate their soul light. This was an extremely terrifying, forbidden weapon in the Yang realm. Normally speaking, very few people used it because it was too difficult to refine and could easily arouse public anger. After Chu Feng learned about the Sky Demon Blood Dissolving Blade in the Yang realm, he had once suspected that the reincarnation blade he had seized on the reincarnation road was related to this because its effects were similar. Rumble. Chu Feng did everything he could. The scarlet blood in his body completely changed color and flourished with blue light. His golden blood burst forth with incomparable brilliance, as if it was burning itself. The humanoid king's potential was fully released. Bang! In the end, his flesh and blood didn't dissolve, but a terrifying wound was left on his arm. Blood gushed out, and the wound didn't close for a moment. There was an arrow on the ground. This wasn't the Sky Demon Blood Dissolving Blade, but the arrowhead was definitely refined with that kind of difficult method. Its value was difficult to measure. This was a true killing weapon. Who wants to kill me? Chu Feng was shocked and furious. He looked again and again. This was an arrow that had been shot at him earlier, but he had evaded it. In the end, it had shot into the earth. And when he used domain methods to evade it, that white porcupine self-detonated. The energy inadvertently lifted this arrow and injured him. The veins on Chu Feng's forehead bulged. This was too unlucky. Although this attack was an accident, someone had definitely wanted to use this arrow to kill him earlier. Moreover, that person had purposely forced the white porcupine to self-detonate. This in itself was equivalent to sending him on his way and letting that vicious beast drag him down with it. This could also be considered destroying his corpse and erasing all traces. This matter isn't over. Chu Feng was surging with killing intent. He picked up the Wolf Fang club and put away the arrow. At this time, the dust on the battlefield had just settled. It was quite frightening. A large pit had been blasted open and the ground was covered in blood. That white porcupine had died miserably, and many people in the distance had been injured by the snow-white spikes that had shot out at the last moment. Some of them had even been torn to pieces. The might of a quasi-sage was intimidating. Many golden body cultivators were drenched in cold sweat. At the same time, many people sighed. That Chowda's fate was somewhat pitiful. He had actually been dragged to his death just like that. That white porcupine was too savage and had taken him down with it. What a pity a youth capable of subduing a quasi-sage has died. This was a true top-notch golden body expert. He actually died unexpectedly. How regretful. On the battlefield, many people had complicated expressions after coming back to their senses as they discussed spiritedly. He died just like that. Chowda, you're too short-lived. The monkey cried out. As expected, the rafter that sticks out rots first. Chowda's strength was sufficient, but he didn't know how to keep a low profile. He even dared to charge forward after encountering a quasi-sage vicious beast. This, he played himself to death. Peng Wanli sighed. Xiaoyao also felt that it was regretful. This kind of character was too powerful and was precisely the powerful ally they needed at present. In the end, he had unexpectedly died on the battlefield just like that. Many people were somewhat stupefied. A madman, an unrivaled golden body expert, had died a violent death just like that. His glory was too short. At the rear of the battlefield, Hong Yu revealed a smile. He was very excited and moved as he looked at his grandfather and then at his older brother Hong Sheng. Hong Yunhai stroked his beard with an indifferent expression, but a radiance flashed through the depths of his eyes. He was very satisfied. His other grandson Hong Sheng had done very well. He had gotten rid of Chowda without anyone noticing. Boom! At this time, smoke and dust surged into the sky as the ground collapsed. Chu Feng rushed over with his wolf fawn club. One of his arms was bleeding, and his eyes were overflowing with lightning. His face was full of anger. He saw the few people who had shot the arrows just now, and he even stared at one of them. This was because after he suddenly rushed up, that person's reaction was the most special. His pupils rapidly constricted, and there was actually shock and disappointment. He had come up too suddenly, and those people's instinctive reactions at the first moment were enough to explain some things. Fellow cultivator is really lucky to actually be safe and sound. What a surprise. Little brother, you actually survived in one piece. The few of them exclaimed in surprise as they looked at him and walked over. Among them, Hong Sheng's face was full of smiles as he said, "Truly a great fortune and great fortune. Little brother is destined to rise up, to be able to remain unharmed in this kind of situation. Don't be angry now. That white porcupine has already self-destructed and died. For you to be able to make such a performance is enough to cause a sensation." Chu Feng sneered in his heart. He really wanted to say, "Is this young master angry at the porcupine?" However, he did not bat an eyelid. Looking at the corpse of the white porcupine, he gradually restrained his anger and said, "This beast is really despicable." He walked forward and restrained all of his killing intent. However, just as he got close to Hong Sheng, he was suddenly shocked and said, "Ah, why did the white porcupine come back to life?" The few people present turned around in shock and then were stunned. At this moment, Chu Feng directly swung the wolf fawn club and smashed it toward Hong Sheng. "You?" Hong Sheng's pupils constricted. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. With a smack, this club directly smashed into his body, and his entire body was sent flying. His flesh was badly mutilated, and blood splattered everywhere. Even though the physical body of a quasi-saint was tough, he couldn't withstand it at all. He felt that his body was about to break. Crack! His entire spine broke into many pieces. This was a terrifying sound that he heard with his own ears. Chapter 1194. Hong Sheng let out a blood-curdling scream as his body flew out diagonally. It could be clearly seen that his body was bent abnormally from the waist down, and it was folded in the opposite direction. That kind of scene, let alone experiencing it personally, was painful just by looking at it. Everyone could see that his spine was definitely broken and twisted. Moreover, his back was badly mutilated, and a large amount of blood rained down from the sky. Chu Feng's attack was too ruthless. He was holding a wolf fawn club, a heavy weapon in the first place. Moreover, there were many sharp nails on it. Just now, he had gone all out and smashed down with the club as heavy as 1,000 kilograms. This was because his anger couldn't be quenched. If it was someone else, they would have definitely been killed by Hong Sheng. This quasi-sage from his own camp was vicious and wanted to kill him. The moment Hong Sheng was sent flying, he understood that his plot to kill Chowda without anyone noticing had been exposed and was known by him. He endured the intense pain and spat out an arrow of light from his mouth. It was condensed from essence, qi, and spirit, and it flew toward Chu Feng. He was afraid that the other party would continue to attack, so he blocked it now. If Chowda was unprepared, it would be better to get rid of this person like this. The speed of this arrow of light was extremely fast. The runes on it flickered and contained a vast amount of quasi-sage energy. It was also extremely terrifying when combined with his blood essence. Chu Feng was like a rock as he spread his arms and rushed over. He was indeed chasing after him in the air. He formed a fist seal with one hand and used the ultimate fist. At the same time, he mixed the profoundness of a lightning fist while his other hand held the big club and continued to attack. Boom! After this punch was thrown, even the void was resonating. Lightning coiled around the fist seal, accompanied by a golden glow and a faint layer of bloodlight. It was the most sensitive to the blood of experts. With a ripping sound, even Hong Sheng's counterattack didn't have any effect. The main reason was that Hong Sheng's entire body had almost fallen apart from that blow. His injuries were too severe. The arrow of light broke and then exploded, turning into scarlet blood and some dimmed energy runes. They were destroyed by Chu Feng. You still dare to harm others? Chu Feng saw the hatred in his eyes, which made people feel like they were being stared at by a poisonous snake. Hong Sheng's eyes were cold and eerie. The wolf Feng cudgel glowed and was raised high into the air. Then, Chu Feng slammed it down with all his might. The other party wanted to kill him in the dark, and even had this kind of expression on his face. Chu Feng naturally wouldn't show any mercy. The giant cudgel descended with extreme speed, causing the void to seem to collapse. The cudgel carried a trembling sound, whistling through the air, energy surging, the scene terrifying. Dang! At the critical moment, Hong Sheng opened his mouth and spat out a flying sword. It was blue and dazzling, blocking the Wolf Fong Club. At the same time, he activated a small purple lightning hammer and smashed it towards Chu Feng's head. He was using his mental energy to control the weapon and fight with his life on the line. Otherwise, he might be killed by Chu Feng in an instant. Dang, dang, dang. In a split second, Chu Feng continuously waved the Wolf Fong cudgel in his hand, continuously smashing it down, causing the blue and lustrous flying sword to become dim and lightless, flying out diagonally. At the same time, the space between his eyebrows glowed, and his frontal bone shone brightly. Using soul light, he directly unleashed the earth attribute energy of the wonderful Seven Treasures technique, forcefully suppressing the purple lightning hammer. The wonderful Seven Treasures technique required the combination of rare materials of heaven and earth in order to be cultivated. And when Chu Feng cultivated the earth attribute technique, he used the reincarnation earth as the foundation, absorbing the essence of this unparalleled material, and finally cultivated the secret technique. Therefore, its power was incomparably great. Now, he directly used it. Immediately, a misty yellow fog spread out, and an earthy yellow brilliance surged. It was grand and thick, and in an instant, it imprisoned the purple lightning hammer. What kind of secret technique was this? Hong Sheng was right in front of him, and he saw it clearly. He was very shocked, but for a moment, he couldn't recognize what technique Chu Feng was using. Chu Feng only used the earth attribute energy of the wonderful Seven Treasures technique. So how could ordinary people distinguish it? With a boom, the purple lightning hammer was imprisoned, and then it was enveloped by an earthy yellow fog, smashing towards Hong Sheng. Pow! For a moment, the bronze shield that Hong Sheng hurriedly took out was smashed into pieces, unable to block this kind of attack. At this moment, Chu Feng didn't give him any more chances. He had long since closed in, and the Wolf Fong mace in his hand smashed fiercely. Puffed. This blow almost caused Hong Sheng's body to explode. Immediately, his bones broke, his tendons snapped, his intestines ruptured, and his spine fractured. He was smashed until he was completely deformed. Then, his body broke apart. This wasn't a slash at the waist with a sharp blade, but a large mace that smashed his body in half. Shady person, did I offend you? How dare you harm me? As Chu Feng spoke, he smashed it again. Hong Sheng's entire body was covered in white hair, and he was in unbearable pain. His face was distorted, and even his facial features were deformed. He rolled on the ground, but he didn't completely avoid it. Chu Feng smashed down with his mace, and the ground cracked open. Soil and rocks flew everywhere. The front part of the mace smashed his right arm, and it instantly turned into a pool of blood, and his bones were broken into many pieces. Hong Sheng let out a blood-curdling scream. At the same time, his face was pale, and he was truly terrified. This golden-bodied youth was too decisive and fierce. After identifying him, he went all out, like a ferocious beast, mercilessly wanting to kill him on the battlefield. Who in the world wasn't afraid of death? If there was a choice, no one would be willing to die in vain. Hong Sheng was extremely unwilling. He was standing up for his own younger brother. He wanted to sweep away the obstacles and help Hong Yu get on the list. This was also what his grandfather had urged him to do. In the end, he had to pay with his own life. "Stop!" Someone shouted from behind, and an old man flew across the sky. Hong Yunhai made his move. He was originally at the back of the battlefield, and when he saw his grandson use his methods to force the white porcupine to self-destruct, causing Chao to die miserably as well, his expression remained the same, but there were ripples in the depths of his eyes, and a smile rippled in his heart. However, who would have thought that the situation would suddenly change? In just a breath's time, the tables had turned completely. That Chao didn't die, and moreover, he had tricked his grandson into turning around and beating Hong Sheng until he was drenched in blood with a single strike of his rod. In reality, he had reacted at the first possible moment, but he was very far away. Moreover, Chu Feng's attack speed was too fast, like a violent storm. After he started, he didn't stop, and all of this was done in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. As for the others, they were also dumbfounded. They didn't understand what was going on. Why did Chao go crazy and cripple the famous Hong Sheng in the quasi-saint domain? Regardless of whether it was the opposing camp or the Yongzhou camp, everyone was dumbstruck. At this moment, they didn't have many other thoughts. The most they had was that Chao was 2F* king fierce. In a split second, he had defeated another quasi-saint. Regardless of whether it was the enemy or the Yongzhou camp, he was still fighting. He's ridiculously fierce. When Chao goes crazy, he doesn't distinguish between friend and foe. First, he fought the ape god, then he fought the white porcupine, and now he even killed the people from his own camp. Once this lord goes crazy, even his own people are afraid. F***. Even my scalp is a little numb from watching this. For a moment, Chao's infamy shook the battlefield. Everyone quickly came to a consensus that this lord couldn't be provoked easily. Otherwise, if he crippled even the people from his own camp, would this kind of savage let off the provokers from the opposing camp? Especially when they had personally witnessed Chao displaying his invincible might not long ago. He had chased down the few vanguards of the He province camp, and even Princess Lu was suspected to have been beaten up by him. He didn't know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. He was too terrifying. If Chu Feng knew what these people were thinking, his nose would definitely become crooked from anger. What did they mean by he would even beat up his own people when he went crazy? This was ruining his reputation. He was getting rid of evil and eliminating traitors. Okay? This was what he thought. Rumble. The sky was trembling. Hong Yunhai rode on a blood cloud and rushed over, shaking the sky. He was a quasi-divine king and was very powerful. He was one of the people in charge of the Golden Body Battalion. Monkey, someone wants to harm me. Find someone to stop him. Chu Feng sensed it at the first possible moment. He immediately whistled with his soul light, and his voice shook the entire battlefield. A chilly glint flickered in his eyes, and the flames of fury burned in his heart. A quasi-saint level life form had ambushed him and was just about to settle the score with him when someone jumped out in the end. Moreover, this person wasn't standing up for him, but was supporting the murderer and was targeting him. That powerful divine sense covered the sky and the earth as it descended. Chu Feng was prepared for the worst. In the next instant, if there was no one to stop this person for him, he could only erupt. The might of a divine king, the reincarnation soil, and the chopstick-long black spear would all be displayed to kill all his enemies. After that, he would turn around and leave. He would just have to change his identity. In the distance, the six-eared macaque, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao were all stunned. Even they were a little dumbstruck and didn't know why Chao had gone crazy and wanted to kill Hong Sheng. But after hearing Chao's intense soul-light voice transmission, they understood that the three of them weren't simple people. They were very sharp and immediately realized that there was a problem here. "Old Lin, stop him," the monkey shouted sternly. The situation was urgent. He didn't hesitate to break the rules and shouted loudly, asking the old servant of the six-eared macaque race to make a move. That old servant was a powerhouse of the divine king domain and was also one of the people in charge of the Golden Body Camp at the same time. However, he had always been hiding in the dark and had never been known by others. Boom! A grayish figure appeared on the battlefield. He was as thin and withered as firewood, but he single-handedly stopped Hong Yunhai, who was pouncing over fiercely like a mad lion. At this moment, Hong Yunhai's hair and beard were all fluttering, and divine light was erupting from his entire body. His imposing manner was so powerful that it almost made the golden body level evolver collapse onto the ground. But everything stopped. The old servant of the six-eared macaque race blocked him with one hand and made all the surging energy roll back. After that, this place regained its tranquility. Chu Feng secretly put away the big killer weapon and placed it into the small grinding stone in his body. This was a strange substance that was ground up on the reincarnation path. It was formed by fusing with his small black and white grinding stone and could conceal heaven's secrets. At this moment, Chu Feng wasn't prepared to leave. At the crucial moment, the monkey's reaction speed and final decision didn't disappoint him. "Old Lin, what are you doing?" Hong Yunhai questioned. Now that he had calmed down, he forcefully held back his boundless killing intent and made himself return to indifference. "Don't be in a hurry to kill. Wait until we've investigated clearly," said the old servant of the six-eared macaque race. "That's exactly what I was thinking. I want to ask why Chowda wants to harm his own people," Hong Yunhai said coldly. At this moment, Chu Feng was also stopped by someone. There was more than one expert secretly watching over this battlefield. They blocked him and didn't let him swing his wolf fawn club. "Why do you want to harm someone from your own camp? Could it be that you want to submit to the He province's side?" Hong Yunhai questioned. "You have the nerve to question me? Look at this arrow." As Chu Feng spoke, he threw out the heavenly demon blood melting arrow with a shake of his hand and shot it toward the lower half of Hong Sheng's body. Hong Sheng's body was broken into two. The upper half was protected by an old man behind him. Chu Feng couldn't touch it, so he directly attacked the lower half of the body under his feet. "No!" Hong Sheng shouted with a sinister expression. Hong Yunhai's expression also changed. He wanted to break through the obstruction and use the divine light to snatch away the lower half of the body or flip over Chu Feng to stop everything. Chapter 1195. The special arrow in Chu Feng's hand sank into the lower half of Hong Sheng's body. At a speed visible to the naked eye, this half of his body rapidly disintegrated and melted into dirty blood. "Save my body!" Hong Sheng roared. If it was in the lesser Yin realm, even if a secondary saint lost a part of his body, he could still reconstruct it. However, in the world of the living where the laws were complete, he was greatly suppressed. At present, it was impossible for him to have such a method. There were all kinds of great medicines in the world that could also help him recover, but the price was very high. Therefore, when he saw Chu Feng destroy his body, he immediately became anxious. This was related to his future Tao fruit. Once it was delayed, it would damage his Tao body and his future achievements would be damaged. Puffed. At the critical moment, the old man who was blocking the upper half of his body made a move. With a slash, he quickly chopped off the dissolving part of his body. However, at this moment, only half of his legs were left, only slightly above his knees. Everyone was speechless. Many people looked over and deeply felt Chow to savagery. This was a devil. Once he made a move, it was called neat. "Chowda, you and I are irreconcilable." Hong Sheng roared angrily, his eyes spewing fire. Then, his eyes were bloodshot with resentment and killing intent. He hated the youth in front of him to the core. In today's battle, he had suffered too much damage and the price was too great. He cultivated a famous Tao body, but in the end, the lower half of his body was only left with a pair of legs. How could he connect them and recover? "Do you think you can still live under the same sky as me? I will kill you sooner or later." Chu Feng's response was unyielding beyond everyone's imagination. He was not afraid at all. Holding the big stick, he wanted to rush over and smash Hong Sheng's head. If not for the old man's protection, he would have definitely taken action. At this moment, Hong Yunhai finally approached, but with the old servant by his side to keep him in check, he could not make a move on Chu Feng. His face was as gloomy as water. This was his own grandson, but in the end, he was beaten up so miserably. This made him extremely angry. If not for the presence of the Divine King, he would have crippled Chu Feng with a slap and then slowly refined his soul. At this time, the few elders present did not say anything. Instead, an intense shout came from behind them. A young man rushed over. His body was strong and vigorous, and he had an imposing appearance. It was Hong Yu. The Hong family wanted to use him to replace Chowda and put him on the list along with Six-Eared Macaque and the others. Seniors, all of you must uphold justice for my older brother. This Chowda is lawless, wicked beyond redemption, and deranged to the point of making one's hair stand on end. He actually acted so viciously against my older brother, suddenly launching a sneak attack, causing him to fall to such a state and be in such a miserable state. How malicious is this? He actually acted against his own people? Under normal circumstances, how could a single Chow to be a match for my elder brother? I don't think he would dare. Hong Yu berated, his face full of anger and killing intent. He requested the quasi-divine kings to immediately kill Chowda, denounce him in both word and writing, listing all types of crimes. At this moment, the entire battlefield quietened down. Both sides stopped fighting and stared at this place. No matter what, Chowda's name had shaken the entire region. Noisy. Shut up. Chu Feng only said these 4 words and ignored him. Instead, he looked at the few elders. He was really suppressing a wave of anger in his heart. He had almost been killed by someone, and now the old and the young were forcing him to abdicate. Instead, they accuse him of murdering someone behind the scenes, putting the blame on him. What's going on? An elder asked. Hong Sheng incited the white porcupine to perish together with me. In addition, he secretly shot an arrow. Look at what this is, the sky demon blood-melting arrow. If I hadn't dodged in time, I would have died a violent death. Chu Feng was quite direct. He narrated what had happened and pointed out that Hong Sheng had attacked him behind the scenes on the battlefield. He had used a vicious forbidden arrow to kill him in the chaos. Nonsense. This is clearly an arrow that you carried with you. You maliciously injured someone, and you still dare to put the blame on me? Hong Yu shouted. Chu Feng cast a sidelong glance at him. This handsome youth, who was at the same golden arhat level as him, was really shameless. It seemed like he had planned to kill him in advance by framing him like this. Chu Feng was a little puzzled. He had just come to the battlefield and had no grudges with them. Why did he attract killing intent? Seniors, I suggest that we search his soul light immediately. There's most likely a big problem with this person. Let's restrain him first. Hong Yu shouted. In the field of evolution, if there was a problem with one soul light, the effects would be severe. One could easily be crippled. Hong Yu definitely had bad intentions. If there was a slight accident during the soul search, Chu Feng might be left with soul injuries. His achievements in this life would be limited. Chu Feng shot him a glance and said, "You're hiding at the back of the battlefield. You seem to be able to see everything clearly and know everything from so far away. Don't say that I'm guilty. You won't be able to escape either." He was very calm and composed. With the old servant of the 6 years race here, there shouldn't be any changes at this moment. Chu Feng spoke again. He pointed at the sky and said, "There's a heavenly mirror monitoring up there. No matter how secretive the quasi-saint who wants to kill me is, we can still find some clues if we transfer the images left behind in the mirror. Besides, this arrow is right here. No matter how he tries to conceal it, I think we should be able to leave behind a wisp of his aura. Divine King, please investigate it. If it really doesn't work, we can ask the Celestial Venerable to return to his origin and thoroughly investigate the truth." He was very calm and had a look of true gold that feared no fire. At this time, the 6-eared macaque, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao also walked over. "Don't let the people from the other camp laugh at us." An old man spoke, indicating that this was a battlefield and it was best to settle it after returning to the camp. At the same time, he also felt that Chu Feng was very calm and composed. He reckoned that he had something to rely on and wasn't lying. It was really possible that something had happened to Hong Sheng. Moreover, He had a certain friendship with Hong Yunhai and felt that he could help him appropriately. At the very least, he could turn a big problem into a small one and let this matter pass. Yes, let's go back, someone else said. Chu Feng said, Seniors, the evidence is here. I really can't bear it. I'm fighting on the front lines, and someone is shooting arrows at me from behind. If we don't give me an explanation and continue to suppress it like this, it will make people's hearts go cold. Don't worry. When the truth comes to light, we will give you an explanation. An old man nodded solemnly. The old servant of the six-eared macaque race also said, Let's go back first. If this matter was really investigated thoroughly, the effects would be extremely bad. They couldn't expose it in front of everyone like this, otherwise, it would make many people's hearts go cold. At this time, Han Yunhai's heart was cold. He knew that he was in big trouble. Why hadn't the heavenly demon blood melting arrow exploded? According to his design, once this arrow was shot, it would eventually disintegrate without leaving a trace. In reality, it was not easy to tamper with a forbidden weapon. The fire was difficult to control, and the arrow was perfectly preserved. At that time, when the white hedgehog self-destructed, everyone would think that Chowda had been dragged along with it. No one would think too much about it. However, the result made Hong Yunhai's heart tremble. Chowda didn't die and was unharmed. Moreover, he appeared here with a heavenly demon blood melting arrow. Let's go. The battlefield calmed down, and the people of both camps retreated. In the Golden Body Cultivators camp, the expressions of a few elders weren't very good. All sorts of signs indicated that this was a premeditated assassination. Hong Sheng wanted to kill Chowda. Old Hong, your grandson has gone too far. He really didn't do this well, someone said. Hong Yunhai's expression was as gloomy as water. At this time, he couldn't flare up because he couldn't act unreasonable in front of someone of the same level. If he caused trouble without reason, his grandson would be even more unlucky. This little bastard has gone mad. I don't care. You guys punish him severely, but I hope you can spare his life. He said, this could also be considered retreating in order to advance. He wanted to do things according to the law. As long as Hong Sheng was given a chance to live, he could punish him however he wanted. Someone said, the impact is indeed very bad. Although Chowda wasn't killed or injured, we can't not punish him. Let him serve on the battlefield for more than 10 years. It sounded like the punishment was very light, but Hong Yunhai's expression changed. Fighting on a battlefield for 10 years. Who knew what would happen? He might die here. Now, Hong Sheng was free. He came here to train himself and could leave at any time. That's too long. 5 years, someone else said. Forget it. Young people can make mistakes. 3 years, give him a chance to change. If it's too long, he most likely won't be able to leave this battlefield. The last person who spoke had a good relationship with Hong Yunhai, so he could be considered to be helping to plead for leniency. You guys discuss it. The old servant of the six-eared macaque race stood up and walked out of the tent. He didn't express his opinion and didn't continue to participate. At this time, the monkey, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao were surrounding Chu Feng. They were quite impressed by his strength. As expected of someone from the degeneration, so savage. The monkey sighed. I just don't understand. Why do they want to kill me? Chu Feng was still pondering over this matter. Otherwise, he would feel uneasy. He really didn't understand why he was targeted for no reason. The six-eared macaque, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao looked at each other thoughtfully as if they had thought of something. Could it be that Hong Yu wants to join us and get a share of the spoils? It's possible. There were many times when he took the initiative and tried his best to show off in front of us. Not long after, the three of them guessed the truth and restored the Hong family's motive. How vicious. They want to kill Chao directly. Hong Yu isn't mature enough. He isn't strong enough, so why should he join us? Does he think that we will be on the list, no matter if we win or lose? Does he want to follow us and get on the same list? Wishful thinking. He has quite the ambition, but I'm afraid his life isn't that tough. The monkey and the others laughed coldly. They were furious that their secrets had been seen through and knew what they were going to do next. Xiao Yao said, this won't do. We have to hurry and warn old Lin and the others. Otherwise, if the news is leaked, how can we do anything? They will definitely be on guard, and we won't be able to find them." The monkey panicked. He quickly found the old servant and told him to warn the Hong family in the name of the six-eared macaque race. They better watch their mouths, or else they would have to bear the consequences. The six-eared macaque race was one of the few strong races in the Yang realm. The Hong family definitely didn't dare to offend them. If they angered the monkey race, it wouldn't be a problem for them to wipe out their entire race. Chu Feng said, "I want to know how to punish that Hong Sheng. I'm waiting for an explanation. You have to be mentally prepared. This kind of scandal usually won't be made public. Moreover, the Hong family's connections aren't bad. If someone speaks up for them, they will probably punish that Hong Sheng to stay on the battlefield for 3 to 5 years. It's impossible for them to take his head as an apology." The monkey sighed. This was the news he had learned from the old servant. Chu Feng was instantly indignant. He felt that this place was very dark. He had been ambushed and almost lost his life, but it was just like that. It really made him unhappy. "Don't be rash. You have to be calm. Didn't you say that you have to be calm every time something big happens? When the results of their punishment are out, we will help you vent your anger. The Hong family has done such a thing. If we go and settle the score with them, no one will say anything." "That's right. Chow, ancestor, don't cause trouble for now. Calm down and focus. Wait a few days." The monkey, Peng Wanli, and the others pulled back Chu Feng together. They said all kinds of good things and promised to help him vent his anger. "All right, I'll wait." As expected, 3 days later, it was announced that Hong Sheng would stay on the battlefield for 4 years to atone for his crimes. He couldn't leave early. Moreover, this was announced privately within a small circle. He didn't publicly announce his crimes. Otherwise, the impact of this incident would be too bad. On this day, everyone saw that Chu Feng's expression was ugly. He was so angry that he wanted to leave the battlefield. 2 days later, the monkey sent news. The Hong family was resourceful and had helped Hong Yu obtain great medicine. It had already allowed his severed body to regrow and grow legs. Of course, he would be very weak for a short period of time. It was impossible for him to be as strong as his original body. "When Hong Yunhai leaves, we'll keep watch for you. Or we can go with you to beat up Hong Sheng and beat him half to death. Of course, don't kill him." When Chu Feng heard this, his eyes lit up and he nodded in agreement. On this day, Hong Yunhai was urgently summoned away. Hong Sheng, who was recuperating in his tent, looked pale. His younger brother was also furious. He felt that this was too unbearable. He didn't make it onto the list, and his elder brother had suffered such a huge loss. He really wanted to take revenge immediately, but his grandfather couldn't hide the truth from the masses. Boom! Suddenly, someone barged into the tent. Chu Feng walked in with large strides. Without saying a word, he swung his club at their brothers. On this day, the Hong brothers roared angrily and fought with all their might against Chu Feng. However, Hong Sheng's body was weak, and he had only just grown his legs. His foundation was injured, and his battle prowess was greatly reduced. He couldn't block the Wolf Fawn Club at all. As for his younger brother, he couldn't be compared to Chowda in the Golden Body realm. There was no need to think about the outcome of this battle. In addition, the monkey, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao also entered the tent, causing the two brothers to feel a chill from head to toe. That day, many people heard the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves in the tent. The Hong brothers were trapped inside and were crippled by Chu Feng with a huge club. Chowda! When Chu Feng, Monkey, and the others left, Hong Yu roared angrily. He was covered in blood and could not get up. As for Hong Sheng, he was motionless like a dead man. "What are you arguing about? The world is so beautiful, but you guys are so violent." Chu Feng returned and entered the tent to intimidate them. Then the entire world fell silent. The two brothers shut their mouths, and their faces were pale, not daring to shout anymore. Only then did Chu Feng, Monkey, and the others leave completely. Chapter 1196. The Golden Body Camp was very large and occupied a vast area. There were tents everywhere, and they were all creatures of this level. There were evolvers from different races. Hong Sheng was crippled, and all the bones in Hong Yu's body were broken. This news quickly spread out, causing an uproar among all the golden-bodied creatures. However, people quickly realized that Hong Sheng had really done something to his own people on the battlefield. He wanted to kill Chowda, and this was revenge. Many people looked down on him and despised his character. At the same time, people also felt that Chowda's true personality was strong and unyielding. He actually dared to flip the table and cripple the two grandsons of the person in charge of the Golden Body Camp, Hong Yunhai. Some people were worried that Chowda might suffer a great loss. After all, offending the Hong family would make it dangerous for him to go on the battlefield or in the camp in the future. Chowda is too straightforward. Although he has vented his anger, he is in danger himself. If such an upright person is killed in secret, this world will be too dark. No, we should support him. The Hong family has gone too far. For a moment, the crowd was filled with anger. Many people believed that Chowda was currently in a weak position. It seemed like he had turned the situation around, saved his life, and crippled Hong Sheng, but in fact, he had buried the seeds of disaster. We went to the battlefield to fight the enemy, but the grandson of the person in charge of this place is scheming against us from behind. If we don't feel safe like this, how can we be loyal? We might as well turn around and join the opposite camp. The Hong family bullies others with their power, covering the sky with one hand and doing whatever they want. They have chilled the hearts of everyone on the battlefield. On this day, someone created such a commotion to fight for Chowda and support him. When the Hong brothers received the news, they were so angry that smoke was coming out of their 7 orifices. Blood seeped out of their injured bodies. They really wanted to curse. What the hell was this bullying and covering the sky with one hand? This made them feel even more aggrieved. The two of them felt that they had indeed wanted to harm Chowda in the beginning, but the development had exceeded their imagination. How could it be their turn to act like a tyrant? In the end, Chowda came knocking on their door and crippled both of them. Beside Chowda were the 6-eared macaque, the rock race, and the Dao race. Who was it that had covered the sky with one hand and committed murder in their grandfather's tent? Moreover, when their grandfather came back, his face was frighteningly gloomy. He didn't immediately go to Chowda to settle the score, because he had been warned. Who's taking advantage of their power to bully others? I hate it. Chow Hong's face turned pale, and he immediately fainted. In fact, all of this was done by Chu Feng's order for Monkey to find people to create a scene. He really felt that this place was too dark. If the Hong family became ruthless and made a move against him, it would be impossible to guard against it. Even if 6-ear macaque patted his chest and said that he would guarantee his safety, he did not want to gamble on it. He wanted to take all kinds of precautionary measures to build momentum and motivate the people. From Chu Feng's point of view, he was a typical victim. The other party could retaliate at any time. The darkness here was terrifying. Hong Sheng and Chu Feng had completely different views. It was a matter of position. They both felt that they were victims. Generally speaking, Chu Feng had a clear conscience. Others wanted to harm him, but he fought back. At this moment, Chu Feng was practicing his fist technique. There were many facilities in this camp. They looked simple and crude on the outside, just tents that stretched as far as the eye could see. But in fact, there was another world inside these tents. They were cavern worlds. Right now, Chu Feng was in a special building. Here, there were all kinds of rare metal casting equipment. For example, the divine gold wall, as well as all kinds of ferocious birds and puppets made of copper. Now, Chu Feng's fist imprints were like rainbows. He was exercising here, and every time he punched, the wall made of rare metal would cave in. It was full of potholes, full of fist-sized holes. The attendants here all felt their scalps go numb when they saw this. What kind of monster was this? One had to know that even a secondary saint might not have such a heavy punch. It was too frightening. How could a golden-bodied youth be like this? One had to know that this kind of metal was too tough. Some experts used it to refine armor. It was very rare and precious. Boom! Chu Feng leaped into the air, and his feet stomped on the wall until it caved in completely, almost collapsing. Dong! In the end, he punched out with his ultimate fist. With a loud rumble, he smashed through the wall, causing the attendant's towel to fall to the ground. He was so frightened that his face turned pale. He really wanted to cry out in shock. He wanted to tell others how freakish Chowda was. But he didn't dare because the six-eared macaque and the experts from the Pung race had long warned him not to reveal anything here. Otherwise, they would kill him first. This metal wall had a memory, and in the end, it recovered on its own. Did you see that? How freakish. He smashed through the wall. This is a record-breaking fist strength. At the very least, there is no one stronger than this fist in this golden body camp. The monkey was speechless. Peng Wanli said, "Did you guys notice that the energy he injected is very special? It's specially prepared for people with death substitution talismans. Who was he trying to use this against?" Indeed, he wasn't wrong. Chu Feng was like this. He was researching killing techniques with one punch. He had long since learned about it from old Gu. In addition to his own practice, his current fist was extremely terrifying. It specialized in breaking through death substitution talismans. In truth, all the clans had researched this. Any defensive technique would be amazing at first, but there would always be a sharper spear that could pierce through it. The era was developing, and the path of evolution was getting further and further. Many things were changing. The monkey said, "This fellow has a lot of resentment in his heart. Although he beat up Hong Sheng and Hong Yu, crippling them, this fellow is used to being domineering. He still feels like he suffered a loss." Xiao Yao said, "If we put ourselves in his shoes, we would most likely be the same. After all, who would dare to offend us normally? There's no need to talk about bullying or scheming against us." That makes sense. This means that Chowda isn't simple. He's actually quite arrogant. Could it be that he has some other background? The six-eared macaque was very sharp. The three of them were suspicious. They were actually able to make some deductions based on these clues. Who cares? He most likely came from the most terrifying hidden clan. We'll just pretend we don't know. Don't get to the bottom of it. Peng Wanli said. When it came to the hidden clan, the three of them had solemn expressions. The so-called hidden clan was the strongest clan that never appeared in the world. It was as if they were cut off from the rest of the world. Only occasionally would their disciples come out to walk around. For example, the Bodhi Buddhist clan of Three Stars Cave belonged to a foreign desolate clan that had transcended from the Buddha race. It was believed to have gone extinct long ago. If someone unexpectedly appeared now, it meant that the clan was still around, just that it had become a hidden clan. "Chowda, you should rest." Mi Tian walked over and called out to Chu Feng to rest. He also told him that his little sister had invited someone back. "Is that so? Then let's start early. I really want to spar with the second sage again," Chu Feng said. After training here, he was covered in sweat. After washing up, he finally felt refreshed. He was no longer stifled, and his excess energy had been released. "Okay, I'll go find her. We can discuss the time. We should indeed start early." The monkey nodded. Chu Feng sat down cross-legged and silently comprehended. This time, he had gained a lot from the battlefield. When he practiced the ultimate fist, he had come into contact with the floating blood mist on the battlefield, which had promoted the evolution of the ultimate fist. This fist technique was very special. Once it was used, a golden light would protect the body, and there would be a faint layer of blood light on the outermost layer, which could resonate with the blood of other creatures. In the course of the evolution of the various clans, a secret had gradually been revealed. The blood of all living creatures contained some kind of code, some kind of order fragment, which belonged to each clan. When Chu Feng practiced the ultimate fist, he could resonate with this natural pattern contained in the blood and comprehend it. This was a rare opportunity. Therefore, after he had practiced the fist technique to his heart's content, he had closed his eyes to comprehend it. The harvest was huge. In a sense, this large-scale battle on the battlefield had made his fist seal even more powerful. Not long after, Mi Tian's little sister arrived. Chu Feng was stunned. After seeing the real person, he was completely convinced that the monkey had not lied. His little sister was actually an outstanding beauty. Her skin was fair, and she had a head of glossy black hair. Her large eyes were pure and clear, and her entire person had a fairy-like aura. She was like a hazy mist, beautiful to the point of being unreal. It really isn't the thunder god mouth. Chu Feng mumbled. What did you say? No matter how soft his voice was, the monkey could hear it clearly. Otherwise, he would be letting down his name as the six-eared macaque. In an instant, the monkey's face darkened as he recalled the scene of their first encounter. At that time, he had wanted to introduce his little sister to Chowda, but he had been given the cold shoulder. Mi Qing smiled faintly and gracefully walked over to greet Chu Feng. Clearly, she had heard how cruel he was. Chu Feng smiled and warmly greeted Mi Qing with a harmless expression. He mumbled inwardly. If he had known earlier that it wasn't the thunder god mouth but a true human body, he wouldn't have rejected her so directly. He started to compliment her, praising her for her transcendent beauty and how she was like a fairy from the heavens. What do you want? The monkey blocked Chu Feng and glared at him fiercely. Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao were both speechless. Mi Qing even laughed lightly and said, Don't mind my brother. He's just a crazy person, always pointing fingers and pointing fingers. He's always more of a hindrance than a help. Miss Mi Qing is truly elegant and pure, intelligent and understanding. She's much better than a certain someone. Chu Feng actually wanted to say that she was much better than a certain monkey, but he felt that this might offend Mi Qing, so he changed his words. The monkey said, Chow, I'm warning you, don't look around and don't have any ideas about my little sister. Just give up. I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. It's too late now. Chu Feng really wanted to say, You damned monkey, you were just tricking me that day. You didn't have any plans at all, right? Finally, he stared at the six-eared macaque and said, Are the two of you really from the same mother? The moment these words were said, the jade-white Mi Qing immediately giggled. Meanwhile, the monkey's face twitched, feeling that he had suffered a grave injury. His gaze was murderous, and he wanted to fight to the death with Chu Feng. However, after considering the consequences and the possibility that he would be beaten up, he forcefully restrained himself. At this time, someone came to report that someone from the quasi-sage camp had delivered a letter. Let him in. Peng Wanli waved his hand. A young lady walked over. She could be considered pretty and had a good figure. She took graceful steps into the cave. She was a bit arrogant, and her eyes were filled with disdain. She glanced at Chu Feng and said, You must be Chowda. You're very arrogant and domineering. My family's young miss wants you to go over. Here, this is the letter. Chu Feng glanced over. Wasn't she just a maid? Naturally, a quasi-sage maid was indeed very powerful and amazing, but wasn't she a bit too arrogant? She was just delivering a letter, yet she was acting like this. He waved his hand and directly took the letter. After tearing it open, Chu Feng's expression became somewhat ugly. That so-called young miss had used a commanding tone to tell him to go to the quasi-sage camp and ask for forgiveness. It's this woman? The monkey glanced at the name inscribed on the letter, and his pupils instantly constricted. That was because this was one of the quasi-sage candidates they had to ambush. My family's young miss said that it's fine if you beat up her people on the battlefield, but you even dared to cripple Hong Shang a second time. You're quite daring, and she wants you to go over and talk to her. This maid was arrogant, and her words were very unyielding. The monkey transmitted his voice and told the maid who the woman behind her was. Chu Feng's expression instantly turned gloomy. He secretly said, What candidate? Remove the word candidate. I'll beat her this time. There was a wave of anger in his heart. That so-called young miss was really too overbearing. She dared to speak to him like this. It was just a letter, and she dared to domineeringly order him to go and ask for forgiveness. Chi, chi, chi. Chu Feng tore the letter into pieces and directly threw it at the young lady's face. Tell her to wash herself clean. I'll go find her when I'm in a good mood. I don't have time now. Chapter 1197. Clean up? The few people present revealed strange expressions. Was he going to fight, or was he going to flirt with her? You? This woman with a good figure immediately turned hostile. She considered herself a quasi-saint expert, and her words and actions were full of conceit. Now, someone had actually torn up a letter and thrown it on her face. She saw it as a humiliation. For a moment, her killing intent was revealed. Her almond-shaped eyes were wide open, revealing a biting cold intent. She stared at Chu Feng and said, "Are you declaring war?" Chu Feng didn't pay attention to her. Instead, he secretly told the monkey that no matter how powerful that so-called young lady was, she had to be the target of the ambush. "I'm talking to you. Did you hear me?" The woman who delivered the letter shouted. Although she was arrogant and conceited and her words were disrespectful, she didn't dare to make a move. What kind of joke was this? Chao Deji's ferocity had long been known. In addition, there were also the six-eared macaque siblings, as well as the rock race and the Dao race's devil incarnate. If they were to really make a move, she would probably be the one to walk out unscathed. "My young lady invited you over. It's fine if you don't listen, but how dare you treat me like this?" She shouted again, demanding an explanation. "Is she inviting me over? She's ordering me to beg for forgiveness. Do you think I'll go just because she asks me to? Who is she to me?" Chu Feng glanced at her, and a cold expression appeared on his face. He was indeed furious. He had come to the battlefield to sharpen himself, but in the end, he still encountered such a thing here. Some people wanted to cover the sky with one hand and did unspoken rules to him. However, was he that kind of person? One had to know that when he was in the serene realm, he was a famous human trafficker who hunted divine sons and sold saintesses with all his might. It was impossible for him to admit defeat in the Yang realm. Therefore, not long ago, he transformed into the irascible elder brother and very straightforwardly crippled Hong Sheng for the second time. "Fine, you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Don't regret it." This woman sneered. With a flick of her sleeve, the fluttering letter paper turned into powder. Chu Feng directly took out his wolf fawn club and pointed it at her nose. "If you dare to speak to me with such a tone again, I'll let you know why flowers are so red." The woman's expression suddenly changed. The densely packed nails on the big stick flickered with cold light. They were extremely sharp and were about to touch her nose. This was an undisguised threat and intimidation. In her eyes, this savage was too unbridled. Facing a messenger like her, he actually didn't care at all. One had to know that the person she was following had a great background, and the family behind that young lady was not one to be trifled with. "Chowda, you're very good. I won't lower myself to your level today. I'll report the truth to my family's young miss. You'll have to bear the consequences yourself." The woman spoke, backing up. She was incomparably resentful. Every time she followed her family's young miss out on a trip, she would always be complimented by others. When had she ever encountered a situation like today? She felt that it was fine if he pointed his finger at her nose, but that barbarian actually pointed his wolf tooth club at her nose. He was wild and hard to tame, too rude and unreasonable. "Why don't you try threatening me again?" Chu Feng's blood chi surged. Even though he was at the golden arhat level, he wasn't afraid of a secondary saint and pressed forward just like that. Mi Qing was speechless. Her fairy-like face was slightly stunned. This was her brother's wolf tooth club. Very soon, she regained her composure. This Chowda was really as savage as the rumors said. No wonder even her brother was beaten up by him when they first met. Mi Qing clearly knew how great the background of the young miss behind this woman was. "Brother, a good man doesn't fight with a woman. Let him go." Peng Wanli hugged that arm of Chu Feng's. He was really afraid that Chu Feng would smash down with his club and kill here. Now, Chu Feng had already become crazy in their eyes. Even his own people were on the same level as this legend. They were really afraid that he would flare up and go crazy on the spot. If Chu Feng knew what they were thinking, he would definitely beat them up. "Fine, I'll go. Chowda, remember, you're destined to not have a good ending. How dare you treat a messenger like this? Tear up my family's young Mrs. Letter and beg for forgiveness without obeying her orders. Just you wait." The woman sneered, raised her chin, opened the tent, and walked out. Chu Feng's face sank. He had been threatened once again, and by that young miss made no less. Asterisk Hong Long. Asterisk at this moment, he suddenly threw the wolf fong mace out. He used so much force that the wolf fong mace, which was full of sharp nails, flipped and flew out. It was too fast. At this moment, let alone the woman, even me, Tian, Xiao Yao, and the others were unable to react, none of them having expected Xiao to use such a sneak attack. This woman was not someone to be trifled with. Even if they didn't get along with each other, they were all hesitant about whether or not they should ambush her. But now, Chowda was so straightforward. Hitting this woman's made the first time they met. Obviously, this woman was not prepared at all. She didn't think that with her status, she would be hit with a club before leaving. Asterisk poo. Asterisk the thunderous wolf-tooth club smashed into the woman's buttocks, causing her to scream miserably as she was sent flying, blood splashing everywhere. Chowda! She roared angrily, feeling ashamed and in disbelief. The pain was unbearable as her buttocks had been smashed by the wolf-tooth club. I dare you to threaten me again, Chu Feng said with a black face. Moreover, he immediately chased after her with long strides. Oh! The woman screamed in fear and trepidation. She raised a gust of wind and fled. One could see that she had transformed into her true form, a beast that looked like a weasel. The yellow wind around her kicked up sand and stones, and in the blink of an eye, she had disappeared. She really didn't dare to stop. She had never seen such a hateful man actually attacking her and smashing her buttocks. She was so ashamed and resentful that she hated Chowda to death. Outside, there were many golden arhats from various races, and after seeing this scene, all of them were dumbfounded. Old brother irascible, you're really something. I'm convinced. How could you attack just like that? Can't you be more magnanimous and take it easy? Peng Wanli rubbed his hands, really not knowing what to say. Who are you calling brother? You're all older than me, Chu Feng emphasized. However, was this the main point? Both Peng Wanli and the monkey were speechless. They felt that the main point of Chowda's attention was so delicate and beautiful. Mi Qing was also speechless, but soon, she pursed her lips and secretly laughed. She felt that this Chowda was too interesting. She couldn't understand him at all. Compared to those heroes, he was truly strange and different. At the same time, she looked at the bloodstains outside the tent, as well as the gust of wind that fled into the distance. Even she felt pain for that woman's buttocks. She was too unlucky to have encountered such a savage. At this time, many people in the Golden Arhut camp were alarmed. They knew what was going on and were all speechless. This Chowda was really honest and straightforward. He had offended another woman with a great background. Only the two brothers, Hong Sheng and Hong Yu, couldn't help but curse out loud after hearing this. Honest my ass, that Chowda was definitely pretending to be violent and straightforward. In reality, he was very hateful and not a good thing at all. At the same time, Hong Sheng felt guilty. He had once told people to say that he was wronged. He reckoned that those words had reached that woman's ears. Just based on their certain friendship, she would probably help him out. However, he didn't expect that Chowda would be so savage that he smashed the woman's messenger's butt. God knew what the consequences would be. He wasn't sure about the other consequences, but there was one thing he immediately realized. That was because Chowda had come again. Taking advantage of the fact that his grandfather was out again, he came looking for him. He was sure that he was the one who was stirring up trouble, so he beat him up again. Damned. He wanted to curse out loud. He had just changed a rare great medicine and was about to recuperate from his injuries. Damn it. He was beaten up again. At the same time, even his younger brother, Hong Yu, was beaten up again. He was so angry that his eyes rolled back, and he directly fainted. In his stupor, he was still twitching in pain. What does it have to do with me? It's not like I called her here to interrogate you. Hong Sheng gritted his teeth. He didn't know how long he would have to recuperate from his injuries. This great medicine had ruined more than one stock. It was too wasteful. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. In any case, I believe it. You were the one who called for her. Chu Feng didn't even listen to his explanation. After beating him up, he directly patted his butt and left. F***CK. Hong Sheng was so angry that he was trembling. He really wanted to fight him to the death. It was too shameful, too hateful, and too infuriating. He, Hong Sheng, was also an expert of his generation, but he had actually fallen to such a state. Brother, you are too fierce today. It's not too good to attack a woman like this, right? Peng Wanli said. Chu Feng sneered and said, she's already climbing all over me. How can I still smile along? If she provokes me, I don't care if she's a man or a woman. This was the truth. Back then in the little netherworld, it wasn't like he hadn't attacked those sanuses before. He had tied up a group of them and sold quite a few of them in the end. At the same time, he had also attacked his own child's mother in the beginning, beating her to death. In the end, he unexpectedly had a little Taoist. Do you know the background of that young lady? The monkey asked. He felt deeply troubled and frowned. Although he was also unhappy with that young lady, he really didn't want to provoke her. Therefore, that young lady was only on the list of candidates and wasn't listed as a key target for the ambush. How would I know? Just tell me. Chu Feng didn't care in the slightest. He was quite aloof and had long thought things through. If he really couldn't stay here any longer, he would just change his identity and run. Moreover, he might even be able to come back with another identity. That young lady is a blue-eyes, golden-scaled, scarlet, feathered beast, the monkey said with a serious expression. When this race was mentioned, even his little sister attached great importance to it. Divine light erupted from her beautiful and pure large eyes. Beast race. Chu Feng didn't feel too much about it because he was completely ignorant and didn't understand it at all. It's not an ordinary beast race, but a golden qilin with scarlet wings. Xiao Yao informed. Qilin? Chu Feng was shocked. This species was definitely shockingly powerful. To be more precise, it's a variant of qilin. It's different from the powerful qilin recorded in books, the monkey said. It was indeed different. Normal qilins didn't have wings, but that race had scarlet divine wings. So what if it's a variant qilin? How strong is she? Can she be so tyrannical and domineering? Chu Feng was dissatisfied, but he wasn't too worried. Peng Wanli said, she's very strong, otherwise she wouldn't be on that list. But what's even more worrying is that the people related to her are all very powerful. Following that, the monkey introduced the young lady of the blue eyes, golden-scaled, scarlet feathered beast race. Her looks were outstanding, and she had fallen in love with the #1 expert of the Saint Camp. In other words, she had a very close relationship with the #1 saint of the Yongzhou camp. Moreover, she also has an older brother who is ranked 3rd among the divine level experts. Xiao Yao said. Chu Feng couldn't help but be moved after hearing this. The two men who had a close relationship with this young lady were actually so abnormal. At the same time, in the quasi-sage camp, the girl who had escaped was crying and complaining. She had turned into a small beast with smooth fur and was describing Chao as barbaric and tyrannical actions. Young lady, you must personally suppress and kill him. He's too hateful. He didn't even take your words to heart and directly tore your letter. This girl was extremely beautiful. She had a head of long golden hair, and her skin was snow white like jade. Her blue eyes were sparkling, and there was even a pair of scarlet divine wings on her back. Her entire body was enveloped in a divine halo. Chapter 1198. In the Golden Body Camp, the tents were densely packed, and the evolvers of the various races were discussing. The two Hong brothers were beaten up again. No one knew how serious their injuries were, but they wouldn't be able to get out of bed for the time being. This made everyone speechless. It was Chowder again. This is a true character, as expected of Brother Honest. There's no sand in my eyes. Chowder probably knew that the noble lady's messenger was invited by Hong Sheng, so he was rash and directly went to beat him up. His personality is straightforward and too honest. When Hong Sheng and Hong Yu heard this discussion, they were so angry that their lips trembled. They almost wanted to crawl up from their sick beds and fight with someone. The two brothers really wanted to spit on the faces of all the commentators. True character and Brother Honest. How could all of these fall into the hands of someone surnamed Chao? They felt that this world was too dark. That cruel and tyrannical Chao Da always took advantage of others. No matter how they looked at him, he didn't look like a good person. How could he have such a reputation? For a time, they doubted life. Originally, they wanted to hunt Chowda and kill him. Then, they would take his place on the list and obtain good fortune. In the end, they realized that Chowda was even more like a villain than them. He was strong and domineering, crippling them one after another. What they couldn't stand the most was that the public opinion sympathized with Chowda, saying that he was too straightforward and only attacked in anger after being forced into a corner, causing him to fall into an even more dangerous situation. Everyone thought that Chowda could be retaliated against by the Hong family at any time. I'm going crazy. The originally imposing Hong Sheng was now like a frosted eggplant, withered. He simply couldn't stand it. In the end, the two of them were too miserable. They carried a bad reputation and were always beaten up. Every time, they would be beaten half to death. Their bodies were crippled, and their spirits were also damaged. Everyone, thank you for your support. Chowda will remember this. I am too honest and stubborn. When faced with people who want to harm me again and again, I can't control myself. So, I went straight to their door. Chu Feng saw the heated discussion outside, so he purposely showed his face and expressed his gratitude with a straightforward manner. At the same time, he expressed that if anything were to happen to him, it would definitely be the Hong family's doing. He asked everyone to be a witness. If he were to die, he would be buried on the battlefield. This was the best ending for those who went to the battlefield. Brother Gengji, don't worry. The Hong family can't do whatever they want. We're all watching and standing behind you. Many people expressed their support. Chu Feng cupped his fist to express his gratitude before retreating into the cave, dwelling in the tent. The six-eared macaque, Mi Tian, bared his teeth and said, "Chow, you really have a nerve to beat the Hong brothers up so badly and then run off to gain sympathy. How shameless." Chu Feng's face darkened as he said, "I have always been honest and kind. It was them who harmed me again and again. I was forced to retaliate." Then he stared at the monkey and said, "Let's settle the score too." Monkey was shocked and said, "Wait a moment. Don't tell me you're really going to beat up your own people when you go crazy? Do I look like that kind of person?" Chu Feng glared at him. The monkey, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao all nodded subconsciously. Only Mi Qing was smiling secretly. "What do you mean? You guys actually look at me like that? All right then, let's settle the score," Chu Feng said. "Settle what score?" Peng Wanli asked. Chu Feng said, "We're going to ambush the secondary saint soon. But the more I think about it, the more I don't like it. I'm going to be your hired thug for no reason. What do I get in the end?" The monkey rolled his eyes and said, "Chowda, do you know that the Tao fusion herb is unparalleled in the world? It can raise a living being's ultimate achievement. You have the chance to get close to it, yet you're still not satisfied? What else do you want?" Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao also wanted to suppress him. Chu Feng looked at them from the corner of his eyes and said, "Stop it. You guys all have the support of your clans. If the ambush really succeeds, the few of you will most likely be able to enter that list. As for me, a lone cultivator, I might become the scapegoat for this storm. I won't get any benefits and might even be in big trouble. You guys see that I'm honest and straightforward. You want to make use of me? No way. Honest my ass." The few of them wanted to scold him. If he was really an honest person, he wouldn't think so much and would have cooperated happily long ago. Xiao Yao said, "Chowda, you're thinking too much. How can something like that happen? As long as our ambush succeeds, we'll be considered a heaven-bestowed golden body expert. With a halo around us, we'll be able to enter that list. If we can enter, will we leave you behind?" Chu Feng shook his head and said, "Forget it. It's only been a few days since I came to the battlefield, but I've already sensed too much darkness. This place eats people up without spitting out their bones. You guys have more foundation than Hong Yu, and your origins are even greater. The Peng race, Dao race, and six-eared macaque race. Which one of them isn't glorious in ancient history? If I were mixed with you guys, I'll most likely become a scapegoat in the end. I'll be schemed against by your clans, and they'll swallow me whole." Peng Wanli was very solemn as he said, "Brother Chow, you're thinking too much. We're like-minded and have formed an alliance. We're all brothers in the same trench. How can we burn the bridge after crossing the river and treat you like that? You guys might not have such thoughts for the time being, but the hearts of the old fellows behind you are probably already shining with darkness. Ask yourselves, if we really succeed in ambushing the quasi-saints, will the storm be very big? If those quasi-saints are pushed down because of this, will the unfathomable clans behind them let the matter rest? And what will the old fellows in your clans do? They'll most likely have a secret discussion with them and reach a compromise. The first step is to let them vent their anger. They'll most likely toss me out and make me their sacrifice. After hearing Chu Feng's words, the few of them were speechless. Based on their understanding of the elders in their clans, this wasn't impossible. The hearts of the old fellows were all very dark. If they weren't dark, they wouldn't have lived until now. Moreover, the compromise between the Peak clans was most likely accompanied by blood and required sacrifices. So, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm preparing to leave, said Chu Feng. The few of them immediately became anxious when they heard this. They were about to make a move, but Chowda had withdrawn. This seriously affected the plan, and everything would be put on hold. They couldn't accept this. Brother Chow, what do you think I should do to set my mind at ease? You have to know that the Dao Fusion Herb can increase your ultimate achievement. If you have the aptitude of a divine king, it can help you become a celestial venerable in the end. If you have the potential to become a celestial venerable, it will push you forward and make you become an almighty sooner or later. This is enough to make people go crazy. The few of them were tempting and asking questions, wanting Chu Feng to tell them what he should do to set his mind at ease. Chu Feng said, "How about we use a prehistoric soul light blood oath to guarantee it?" The few of them were immediately shocked when they heard this. A prehistoric soul light blood oath was quite terrifying and almost unsolvable, causing them to feel conflicted. Upon seeing this, Chu Feng stood up and was about to leave. "Fine, we'll use this soul light blood oath as a guarantee." Mi Tian, Peng Wanli, and the others cared too much about this opportunity and didn't want to give it up. This was related to their future, so they wanted to fight their way forward. Their soul lights were dazzling, their blood essence was flowing, and strange symbols were condensing. Everyone was swearing that if they succeeded in ambushing the second saint, they would obtain a common good fortune. Otherwise, they would be struck by lightning and suffer for the rest of their lives. However, Chu Feng felt that this oath wasn't vicious enough, so he made them swear it again. This caused their faces to turn green, and in the end, they all had a shadow in their hearts. It wasn't until a very long time later, when even Chu Feng was a little scared listening to it, that it finally ended. After swearing the oath, the few of them started discussing. They had to find a way to communicate with the old guys in their clans so that when the time came, they wouldn't throw him out as a sacrificial offering like Chowda had said. After all, they had all sworn an oath here to obtain a common good fortune. If the elders in their clans didn't know about it, it would be very troublesome if they treated him as an abandoned pawn when the time came. "I'm still a little worried," Chu Feng said. At this moment, these few people's eyes were green as they looked at Chu Feng. They really wanted to ask him how they could be completely at ease. One had to know that their soul lights were resonating here just now, and they were carrying out all kinds of blood oaths. The monkey said faintly, "Chow, how miserable do you want us to be? Just now we kept swearing. Just the different ways of dying alone are already no less than dozens." The few of them swore according to the requirements. Once they violated it, they would experience all kinds of cruel ways of dying from ancient times to the present, such as being split apart by a car, lighting a sky lantern, having their hearts cut out, being dismembered by 5 horses, and so on. Therefore, at this time, their eyes were all green as they stared at Chu Feng, making him feel embarrassed himself. Chu Feng waved his hand and said, "All right, what's the point of being so calculative? One has to be magnanimous as a person. Look at you guys. Each and every one of your faces is emaciated, looking like you've suffered great bitterness and hatred." Indeed, Mi Qing was the only one who could still smile. However, those few people didn't see it that way. The monkey was incredibly indignant as he said, "You have the nerve to talk about magnanimity? Isn't one oath enough? How many did you make us swear?" "I've carefully counted, and there's a total of 57 ways of dying." This also meant that they swore a total of 57 kinds of soul-light blood oaths. Chu Feng laughed dryly and said, "Is there that many? You must have remembered wrongly. Moreover, is it worth haggling over matters of the past?" The few people really wanted to say, "Don't you have any idea in your heart whether there are so many deadly oaths? Moreover, who's the one haggling over magnanimity? You have to make us swear for more than 2 hours, talking endlessly, swearing until we're foaming at the corners of our mouths." The few people didn't want to talk to him anymore. Chu Feng hurriedly changed the topic and said, "Didn't younger sister Mi Qing invite an expert? Where is he?" When they talked about proper matters, the few people all became solemn and told him that it was an expert of the red-scaled crane race. His magic power was tyrannical and his corporeal body was tough. He rarely had a match in the golden body domain. He's called Qi Linkong. He was arranged to rest in a large tent. The red-scaled crane race was undoubtedly a crane race, but their entire body was covered in scarlet red scales, making their corporeal bodies exceptionally powerful. This was an extremely ancient and terrifying race, the crane race of alien desolation. On the way, Chu Feng asked, "Do we also have to make him swear 20 to 30 oaths?" At this moment, even Mi Qing, who had a sweet smile on her face all along, had a somewhat unnatural expression and slightly stiffened. "Brother Chow, you're of the Da generation. Don't mention this kind of unbearable request anymore, all right? It's enough that the few of us swear." "All right then." Chu Feng nodded and put on a magnanimous appearance. He said, "These are all nothing. I'm just saying it casually. Actually, even you guys don't need to swear. I trust you guys very much." "Trust my ass." The few of them all looked at him with disdain. Not long ago, they were already swearing to the point of vomiting. Why didn't you say this? In the end, you still didn't think it was too much and even wanted them to swear a few more. "Chowda, get out here and welcome the holy envoys." Right at this moment, someone shouted loudly, shaking the entire golden body camp area. Chu Feng's expression changed, and he said, "They're coming over on their own. We might as well take this opportunity to get rid of all of them." Chapter 1199. Mi Qing's footsteps were light like a fairy from a painting, disappearing in the blink of an eye. She went to find Qi Linkong, preparing to participate in this ambush. "Chowda, why aren't you getting over here yet?" Someone shouted. Moreover, a large tent in the distance was directly smashed apart by a treasured pestle. The small cave inside suddenly collapsed and exploded on the spot. That was Chu Feng's cave inside the tent, yet it was actually destroyed so easily. The newcomers came with ill intentions, without the slightest misgivings. They were just that direct, wanting to slap Chowda's face. Chu Feng's expression immediately sunk. He naturally heard these shouts. Moreover, he also heard the voice of that weasel demon from before. "Go, let's go over." The monkey spoke. His expression wasn't that great either. That was the cave inside the tent he had gifted to Chu Feng. There was the 6-eared macaque race's special insignia on the tent. Just this insignia alone was a type of guarantee that could ensure one's safety. However, the people who came today didn't care at all and directly destroyed that small cave. Chu Feng, the monkey, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao walked over together. Their expressions were all serious. Even though they didn't say anything, everyone along the way shivered inwardly. A battle might break out. They could already see from far away that there were a few figures standing there. The one in the lead was an extremely outstanding woman. She was tall and slender, her curves undulating up and down. Her figure was excellent, and she had a head of long golden hair that flickered like sunlight. Her skin was fair, and her face was exquisite. She was extremely pretty, and her large eyes were green. Her nose was tall and straight, and her red lips were moist and sexy. This woman was extremely beautiful. Her clothes fluttered in the wind. There There was a pair of red wings on her back that flowed with sparkling scarlet multicolored light. Her entire body was surrounded by a divine ring, and her temperament was extremely outstanding. This was a young miss of the scarlet feather race with blue eyes and golden scales. This race was a mutation of Qilin. Her name was Jean Lin, and she was extremely powerful among the quasi-saints. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made it onto that list. The woman from before, the messenger and maid sent out by Jean Lin, was also there. She had changed into a set of clothes. Her figure wasn't bad, and her appearance wasn't bad. However, her face was full of coldness as she stared at Chu Feng. Up until now, it was still difficult for her to walk. Even though she had applied the spiritual medicine, she still felt a piercing pain in her buttocks. Such a huge mace was thrown out and smashed on her body. That feeling almost made her break down. At this moment, Chu Feng, Monkey, and the others had arrived. They stared straight at her, or to be more precise, at her buttocks. She was instantly embarrassed, and her eyes were spewing flames of anger, and her pretty face was flushed. "What are you looking at?" She berated. She was the one who had challenged him earlier, speaking disrespectfully and telling Chu Feng to get his ass over here. It was because her heart was too ashamed and resentful, and also too resentful. What she suffered today was not only trauma, but also mental humiliation. "Shut up," the monkey said, staring at her feet, which happened to be stepping on the tent. It was a complete mess. After all, a small cave dwelling had been destroyed. The monkey's eyes were spewing fire because the six-eared macaque's race emblem was at the feet of the woman whose buttocks had been smashed by Chu Feng. It was unknown if it was done unintentionally or intentionally. There were a total of 4 people. Other than the master and servant, there were 2 other women who also had extraordinary looks. One was tall and slender, and the other was petite and exquisite. Both of them were very beautiful. All 4 of them were quasi-saints, and this kind of attack put great pressure on them. "Who are you telling to shut up? We are here to denounce you," the weasel demon said hatefully. After all, she was also a quasi-saint. Now that she had come with the eldest miss, and the 2 best friends of the young miss were also experts, she naturally wasn't afraid. Even if she was facing the 6-eared macaque, she was still very confident. "Jean Lin, you are really used to being domineering. You are just a maid, yet you dare to speak to us like this and order us around. Are you trying to bully our race because we have no one?" At this point, the monkey was even more furious. He stared at the shattered race emblem on the ground again and said, "Jean Lin, is this your idea, or is she trying to take revenge by trampling on our race emblem?" "Oh, I didn't see it. So it turns out that you are your race emblem. Sorry." The weasel that had transformed into a woman could be considered pretty. She apologized hypocritically and smiled, but very soon the corner of her mouth twitched because but was in too much pain. She suspected that blood was seeping out, and her expression suddenly changed. "Jean Lin, is this your idea?" The monkey was furious. That was because up until now, the main character hadn't opened her mouth or paid them any attention. Only a maid was pestering them. Was she looking down on them? Chu Feng's expression also changed. He saw that the few pieces of his clothes hadn't been destroyed along with the collapse of the small abode. Instead, they were being stepped on by those people. Was she purposely leaving them behind? "Mi Tian, I know you have always been unconvinced by me, but this has nothing to do with you today. Move aside." Jean Lin finally spoke. Her long golden hair that was shining brilliantly danced in the wind. Her figure was excellent, and her curves were undulating. Her bright red lips opened and closed, and her voice was very cold. She was very beautiful, but now she didn't pretend to speak. She emitted an ice-cold temperament as she looked at Chu Feng and said, "You're quite bold. I've always been bold." Chu Feng was happy and fearless as he stared at her. The monkey's expression was very unsightly as he said, "Jean Lin, what's the meaning of this? Did you come here just to humiliate us? I can't be bothered to bicker with you right now. I just want to capture this madman." Jean Lin was very domineering. She looked sexy and beautiful, but her expression was cold and emitted wisps of killing intent. She locked onto Chu Feng and strode forward. Chowda, a wild cultivator like you might have some strength, but you're still far from being invincible in the same realm. There's nothing to be arrogant about. There are plenty of people stronger than you. We've all come from your realm, so don't be arrogant in front of me. She flung her long golden hair with an indifferent expression. Her divine ring shrouded her, and she became even more domineering. Chu Feng wasn't afraid in the slightest and said, "What a pity. You guys aren't in the golden body domain, so you can naturally say whatever you want now. But don't worry, I'll enter the quasi-saint domain right away. We'll get to know each other better then." Jean Lin said disdainfully, "You dare enter the quasi-saint domain? Will there still be anything good for you when you're in our camp? If you hide in the golden body camp, perhaps no one will be willing to touch you. But if you really dare to step into our domain, how many days can you live?" This was contempt, but it was also a kind of intimidation and threat. She was telling Chu Feng that Chu Feng wouldn't be able to survive in the quasi-saint camp based on his actions. Chu Feng said coldly, "I really want to enter the quasi-saint domain soon. I want to see why I can't live for more than a few days." "Who do you think you are? Conceited and self-righteous. Even if you're somewhat extraordinary now, you're still too inferior compared to Big Brother Kuan-Long. You can't even withstand a single blow." Jean Lin said disdainfully, "Big Brother Kuan-Long was truly invincible in the quasi-saint domain back then. With a single finger, you could suppress those equally conceited geniuses." Obviously, when she mentioned Kuan-Long, her face was brimming with a kind of radiance and a strange expression. "Who is Kuan-Long?" Chu Feng secretly asked Monkey. "The current #1 saint in Harmony State's camp, the former strongest in the quasi-saint domain," Mi Tian replied secretly, telling him that he was a troublesome character and somewhat unfathomable. After saying this, Jean Lin's expression turned cold, and she withdrew the strange radiance. The reason she mentioned this seemed to be to praise Kuan-Long. He could sense that Jean Lin seemed to like that powerful saint. "I can't be bothered to talk to you anymore." Immediately apologize to my maidservant and then go to Hong Sheng to ask for forgiveness," Jean Lin said in a very unyielding tone. Chu Feng was immediately unhappy and secretly asked Monkey, "Is her true form really a golden qilin with red wings?" "Yes, what do you want to do?" Six-eared Monkey was surprised. He, Peng Wanli, and Xiao Yao were secretly evaluating whether it would be too difficult to fight against 4 quasi-saints. Chu Feng secretly said, "I just want to ask if there's anyone who uses a blue-eyed, golden-scaled scarlet feather beast as a mount." Monkey's pupil shrank as he looked at Chu Feng. He felt that this guy was really audacious. Was he planning to use underhanded means to make Jean Lin his mount? It seemed that this savage had only come up with such an idea because he was angered. Next, he looked at Jean Lin. At this moment, she was slender and graceful with sexy curves. Her golden hair was shining like the sun, and her bright eyes, pearly white teeth, and red lips made her look extremely beautiful. Chapter 1200. The monkey's eyes flickered, and his entire body was golden. He was staring at Jean Lin in a daze because he was imagining the scene of Chao just suppressing her and forcing her to become his mount. For a moment, his mind was elsewhere, and the expression on his face was rippling. Jean Lin's expression immediately turned cold because she found the 6-eared macaque staring at her in a daze. His smile was so strange, it was just too wretched. "Mi Tian, do you want to die?" Jean Lin shouted. The 6-eared macaque came back to his senses and found that Jean Lin was aiming at him. Her eyes were spewing fire, and her anger was boiling. What was going on? Chu Feng kindly lifted up his sleeve and helped him wipe the corner of his mouth. "Pay attention to your image. You're drooling." The monkey was puzzled. Where did the drool come from? Why was this irascible brother like this? Then he understood that they were slandering him. Chowda. His face and neck were red. That damned Chowda, to actually add insult to injury and ruin his reputation. "I was just in a daze," he corrected. Chu Feng nodded and said, "We understand." It's normal to know how to be lecherous. Scram! The monkey flew into a rage out of humiliation. And at this time, Chu Feng was making preparations. He was going to take advantage of this opportunity to give this woman a mace. This was because he was really angry. She actually dared to force him to apologize for the weasel and Hong Sheng. He teased the monkey to divert everyone's attention. And at the same time, he quickly communicated with the monkey and Peng Wanli, telling them that it was time to make their move. Chowda, your parents really did consider the factors that make up for what you lack. You're too wicked. The monkey gnashed his teeth. Even if it was to deliberately divert everyone's attention, there was no need to make him the scapegoat. If this were to spread among the aristocratic families, it would be too embarrassing for him. Ready? Chu Feng was about to shout. He wanted to smash Jean Lin's head with a mace and then smash the weasel's body. However, right at this moment, Mi Qing's urgent voice transmission came from the shadows. Don't attack. There's an ambush. Mi Qing came, but she didn't show herself. She invited the Scarlet-Scaled Crane race's outstanding talent, Qi Lingkong. He was currently hiding in the distance, sensing some type of dangerous situation. Chu Feng and Monkey were shocked. There was a trap here? At this moment, Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao's hearts sank. After that, their bodies turned cold. They were scheming against the secondary saint, wanting to overturn him. But now, others also wanted to kill them? Don't attack. Monkey secretly reminded Chu Feng. The one who makes the first move gains the upper hand. The one who makes the last move suffers a calamity. Just watch. Watch this wolf teeth mace strike down. I guarantee that this mutated Qilin girl's face will be covered in blood, showing off her elegant demeanor. Chu Feng told him valiantly that he couldn't wait any longer. This young lady was too domineering, which made him feel uncomfortable. Wait a moment. Monkey quickly told him the rules of this place. High-level evolvers weren't allowed to take the initiative to attack low-level cultivators, or else they would be severely punished. This was to prevent gods and saints from deliberately finding trouble with low-level cultivators. If they didn't do anything, wouldn't the great cultivators be able to take revenge at will and kill the weak if there was enmity between the two races? Therefore, there were rules here that forbade high-level evolvers from bullying the weak. If anyone broke the law, they would be severely punished or even killed on the spot. However, if low-level cultivators were courting death and took the initiative to attack, they wouldn't be protected anymore. Experts could directly attack. Chu Feng's face sank. He secretly asked, "You're saying that this woman is fishing and provoking me on purpose to provoke me, luring me into attacking her so that she can kill me? That should be the case." Monkey replied solemnly. Peng Wanli and Xiao Yao also made the same judgment. Now, who didn't know about Chowda's honesty? He was really someone who would burn the moment he touched fire. Didn't he see that Hong Sheng and his brother had already been crippled several times? Monkey said, "Those people feel that old Brother Grumpy will attack if he provokes you a little. They're waiting for you to make a mistake. Then, it won't be a problem for them to cripple or kill you." After hearing that, Chu Feng's face darkened. "Who's old Brother Grumpy? All of you are older than me. Also, that woman has a huge chest and looks like a domineering young lady. So it's on purpose. In that case, she's quite scheming and is even more hateful than what I feel." Monkey said, "That's right. This woman isn't a kind person at all. Why do you think she's here talking to you for no reason? If she had a choice, she could have killed you. She didn't even say a word and would have killed you long ago." Chu Feng's eyes were dark. He felt that the direct descendants of some famous and powerful races that he had come into contact with were not kind people. Monkey was not a good bird either. A slight carelessness would cause him to suffer. Their secret conversation was completed with their consciousness. All of it ended in a single thought, so it didn't arouse the suspicions of Jean Lin and the others. At this time, Jean Lin was still looking down on the six-eared macaque. "You wretched, rotten monkey. We'll settle the score later." Mi Tian's face turned green. He was inexplicably put on a bad name, so he was in a very bad mood. At this time, Chu Feng was looking at Jean Lin with discomfort. This woman had an excellent figure with undulating curves and outstanding looks. However, she had come with killing intent. He felt that it was necessary to suppress her as a mount. He wanted her to understand why flowers were so red. With a hammer, he would beat her up regardless of whether she was a mutated Qilin or not. Jean Lin berated, "Your eyes are so sneaky. You're definitely not a good person." As for the weasel woman, she went along with it. She didn't have anything nice to say and helped Jean Lin ridicule Chu Feng and Monkey. She was purposely provoking old brother Grumpy so that Chowda would make a move. "Jean Lin, how can you be a person in a pond? Once you encounter a storm, you'll transform into a dragon." Chu Feng chanted, "Looks like you'll break free from the pond sooner or later. Why don't you just call yourself Jean Hualong?" "What are you saying? Chowda, you should know that you won't die if you don't court death." Jean Lin's two best friends spoke up. As for Jean Lin herself, a cold light flashed in her eyes. This Chowda actually dared to tease her. At the same time, she was a little surprised. Wasn't this a person with a bad temper who would explode at the slightest provocation? Why wasn't he jumping up and down? "Do you want to die?" Jean Lin said coldly. She didn't try to hide anything and forced Chu Feng's hand. If it were just the few of them here, Chu Feng would have already swung his mace and attacked her first. However, now that he knew that there was still a second saint hiding in the dark, he didn't want to act according to the other party's rhythm. Chu Feng said, "Even if I want to die, no one can stop me." These words were a little arrogant, causing the expressions of the women present to turn cold. He then said, "You definitely can't stop me, but if it's just the two of us, I should be able to stop you." These words were arrogant and ambiguous, causing the expressions of the four women to turn ugly. Their killing intent surged. "Then you can try. If you can touch a single hair on our young miss, we'll consider it our loss." The woman who had transformed from the weasel spirit said. Chu Feng shot a glance at her and pretended to be disdainful. "Stand to one side. I'm talking to your young miss. It's not your turn to speak." This irascible brother didn't make the first move. Jean Lin and the others gritted their teeth. If they wanted to teach this person a lesson, they would be severely punished regardless of whether they crippled him. "Oh right, you're not my match. Go and call that Kuan Long over." Chu Feng provoked back, but he had no intention of making a move. "Brother Kuan Long isn't someone you can mention. You're not fit to be mentioned in the same breath as him. There's a difference between heaven and earth. Don't flatter yourself." Jean Lin rebuked with an ugly expression. Chu Feng was very surprised and asked Monkey how strong this Kuan Long was. Mi Tian told him that it was actually a dragon, but it had grown up in a Kuan's nest and was respectfully called Brother Long. It was known as the first saber saint, and as long as it attacked, its saber chi would be unstoppable. No one in the same realm could be its opponent. "First saber my ass. I'll deal with him later." "Chowda, don't talk nonsense. This Kuan Long has always had his saber with him. He even eats and sleeps with a saber. He has already comprehended the essence of the saber Tao." Chu Feng said, "Forget it. Let's not talk about him for now. There will be a battle sooner or later, and when the time comes, I'll make sure he can't even hold his saber steadily." At this time, a group of people walked over silently from not far away. There were 8 of them, and all of them were quasi-sages. Those who were hiding in the dark and preparing to kill Chu Feng all came out because they could see that this irascible brother was acting strangely today. He was cultivating his mind, not cooperating at all, and was unwilling to make a move. "Jean Lin, what's the meaning of this? You found a group of quasi-sages and deliberately provoked us just now. Do you want to ambush all of us?" Monkey said angrily. He pretended not to know and was nitpicking like this. At the same time, his heart did indeed sink. They had originally wanted to ambush Jean Lin, but they had almost fallen into her trap. This was not good news, and it was very bad. Could it be that the other party had seen through their plan? Jean Lin said, "I can't be bothered with you. I only came for Chowda." Seeing that she didn't seem to be lying, Monkey heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Otherwise, the other party would be on guard and gather a group of quasi-sages. Then, his and Chowda's ambush plan would be delayed, and it wouldn't be easy to carry out. You're lucky today to be able to restrain yourself so much. Jean Lin was tall, and she walked over gracefully. She was only a foot away from Chu Feng, and her body was shrouded in a divine halo. Her golden hair fluttered in the wind as she stretched out a jade-white hand and poked Chu Feng's chest. You better be careful. Her skin was as fair as jade. Although her appearance was outstanding and alluring, there was a cold, murderous intent hidden in her eyes. Quite a number of people had arrived in the vicinity and were quietly watching this scene. The people of the Golden Body Camp were all very nervous. This was a group of quasi-sages that had come knocking on their door. At the same time, when they learned of Jean Lin's identity and saw her attitude, they all felt that Chao De was in big trouble and that his life would be in danger in the future. Chu Feng felt uncomfortable in his heart. This woman was still provoking him before she left, poking his chest at such a close distance and poking at him again and again. This made his eyes burn endlessly. After that, the people in the surroundings were all stunned and almost petrified. They really wanted to say that this irascible brother's temper had flared up again. What was he doing? Chu Feng stretched out his hand and also poked the other party's snow-white and exquisite skin, saying, "You better be careful too." He had acted too quickly. Jean Lin hadn't expected this at all. She was completely stunned, and then her body tensed up as goosebumps appeared all over her body. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.